As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Tuesday, September 24th. Boys, we got football to get to. It's going to be a great day. All right, we're talking some Seahawks today. And we're getting to our top 10 list because it is Top 10 Tuesday. We'll see what the fellas have. Their top 10 teams. Where the Lions rank in that top 10. You boys ready to have a great show or what? How we feel?
Hey, I'm feeling great. Beautiful night outside. The fall has officially become a thing, and that means football. I love the fall. One of the greatest seasons that is out there. Like, I think it's strictly there's beautiful leaves out there. It's beautiful weather, and there's football. And we're talking football. I love this season because there's college football, there's NFL football, baby. Can't wait. I'm excited to talk. I've got some questions for some people. Genuine questions. People usually sometimes might not take me as serious as I want them to. I have some questions where it's like I want to have a serious conversation about something tonight, guys. So can't wait to talk about it.
Did you guys get hailed on today?
Couldn't tell you, actually. I was inside working all day.
Well, you got the rough end of it, but no, yeah. Solid day, like Boone said. Happy to talk some ball. Sea Pigeons on the schedule, big Monday night game. And there were some crazy things that happened last night on the Monday night games, I thought, as well. So be interesting. Jaden Daniels looked fucking phenomenal.
Hey, talk to me. Huh?
I mean, I'm going to be wrong, I think, on my Rookie of the Year take because I think Jaden Daniels. As of right now, it's like Jaden Daniels, gap, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, gap, the rest of the field.
I'll say this. I put in a bet. I sent it to you guys. I don't usually do futures. I will give them out, and maybe sometimes I'll sprinkle a little bit on futures. I just hate having the money caught up. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's probably dumb of me as like a gambler, but I just want to be able to have the money to be able to spend. But I put a future in today. It was essentially just the Booner narrative future. It's Josh Allen to win MVP, Aiden Hutchinson Defensive Player of the Year, and Jaden Daniels to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. It was essentially just everything that I've talked about all offseason long, and they're all either the favorite or the second favorite. So it was like I didn't get the best odds, but it feels good a little bit. All the stuff I talked about in the offseason with Jaden Daniels and Josh Allen and Hutch all starting to come into fruition. I know it's only week 4, but I'm just, things are happening.
That is the definition of standing on business, That is like you're standing on business. You say a take, now you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Right, I was like, in my mind, I was like, I have to feel like I have to. Like, because people always go back at the end of the year. If they say they all 3 win, and they're like, well, did you bet on it? Did you? And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have it in there. I sprinkled a little bit on just so I have it. Like, I'll make a good amount of money, but I was just like, I just want to have it there because those were literally all 3 of my narratives all coming together.
Speaking of a narrative that I hope does not happen, Frank Ragnow potentially playing on Monday. I hope that does not happen. Apparently, Frank is trying to give it a go. Dan had a quote, and they're talking to Frank about it right now, playing this week on Monday night. And I'll kind of show you guys this quote, and then we'll kind of give our take on whether or not that is even realistic. But Dan basically said this. He said, Frank is stubborn. He's hard-headed, Frank. He wants to go. This is something that we're still talking about right now. So Frank, tough as nails. He wants to give it a go. He wants to try. He wants to try and play on Monday. Now, Frank, Lions fans love you. You're a great guy, great individual, very fine player, very fine human, very fine fisher, I might add. But I swear to whatever religion you are, swear to that said God that this man does not play on Monday. All right. I don't want him to play. He's a warrior. I see Slappy said it. I agree. He's a warrior. Tyler says Frank is 5 toes down. He is
Dude, he literally he's like a foot and a half he plays with.
Yeah. And he should not play not play. Don't play at all, please.
I'll
Wait
say
till
this.
the bye, play after the bye. We
I'll
need
say
him
this,
healthy.
Joe.
You don't want it fully torn, or else he's out for the year.
I'm not a doctor,
You're not?
but no, I'm not. No, I'm not the doctor.
That'd be terrifying.
But I'll tell you what, if I'm a doctor, maybe I might just do it just to prove people wrong. I like doing that type of things in my life. But I will say this. Hey, if that man speaks with the doctors and with the team, the docs and everything, and he's in the training room and they're like, hey, this can't get hurt any worse. Like, it can't tear anymore. There's a partial tear. It can't get worse. Like, you're at where it's at. If I'm Frank, like, Frank Ragnow's an absolute bully, a dog, a warrior. He has everything you talk about when you're talking about grit and Dan Campbell. Like, he has played through injuries. Like, all last year, like, man did not practice ever and just showed up to game days and was like, I'm ready to go because he had his foot injury. So it's like, this guy is an ultimate warrior. Like, if anyone can go through an injury and deal with it and play, it's Frank Ragnow. If it can't get any worse, all right, play. But in my mind, again, I'm not a doctor. If it's partially torn, that means in my mind, get fully torn, right? Like, let's just use some context here. Let's use some context. So it's like, just sit out for 2 weeks and let that partial tear heal up a little bit. And I do think it is one of those things to where I don't think 2 weeks probably heals it right away. Like, will fully heal it. That's just in my opinion. Like, I don't like any tear. 2 weeks just doesn't feel like it's enough. So either way, he's probably at some point going to play through. My guess he's going to play through some injury throughout the whole season. Like, I don't think it's something to where it's like, oh, you're good. 2 weeks later, it's fresh. Like, I feel like it's going to be something he's going to have to fight through for the next couple months. Which Frank, if anyone can do it, I know it's Frank. He's done it with his foot. It just sucks that he has to deal with that. So I don't know. I'm interested to see if he plays. Like, if it gets to a point to where they're like, hey, dude, like, it's not even going to heal if you sit out for 2 or 3 weeks fully. That he probably would be like, I'm strapping it up and I'm going. Like, I'm not worried about it. Give me my pads. Let's roll.
There should be no way that Frank Ragnow's on the field Monday night. Zero. He's too important of a piece. He's an all-pro level center. So if that means if he wants to play, that's great. You're waiting one game at the very minimum. You go to the bye week. That's where Dan Campbell has to put his foot down. I mean, the Detroit Lions, even when there's minor injuries, tend to hold players out a little bit longer than they need to, even if it's through practice protocol. Like, they take injuries very seriously. And if Frank Ragnow, your all-pro center, when Jared Goff is not that mobile of a quarterback and needs protected to perform the way that he does, when he's a quarterback that relies on the run game, this run game goes through Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell. You let that man get healthy, even if for a little bit, because you cannot afford to lose him and make this injury any worse. So let Frank sit, even if he doesn't want to. I get it. That's great. That's why everybody in this city loves Frank Ragnow. But no way should he be on the field.
Yeah, no way in hell. I mean, you have a certified supply chain professional. Ragnow will go out there with one ass cheek and 3 toes.
He will. He's an absolute
Booner, if he plays, he'll have one ass cheek, 3 toes, and 1 peck. He won't have 2 pecks. Which
he'll have a peck and a half. He's got a
peck and a half. I mean, I know Dan.
Peck and 3/4.
Peck and 3/4. Like, it's just not. Don't do that. You know, he's too important of a piece. And to your point, Boone, like, most of the league plays injured anyway. I mean, I know Graham's injured because he was suffering. He suffered a little injury, if you kind of noticed it during the game, and he still played. Like, most of these guys are playing through something of some. It's like the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the receiver documentary. He played through the injuries he had when he was with the Lions, last year? So it just don't play Frank. I mean, the guy's already piled up enough injuries to where he's like close to retiring. I don't want to push this man out. Just let him, 2-3 weeks off, chill, come back to make this playoff push. All right,
I'm with you on that.
Lock in. Let's get it. Hey, let's make that peck and a half, peck and 3/4, if not more.
Yeah,
let's get a little closer to 2 packs. All right,
I'm with you. I saw someone in the chat say Booner's the type of person to say to play today, and then Tuesday if he gets hurt to say he shouldn't have played. Listen, it's Vision Stealth. Shout out Vision Stealth. Appreciate you tuning in. Listen, I don't think he should play. I'm going off of what I think. What I think he'll do, like what Frank will do. Like if Dan's going on 97-1 being like, we're trying to hold the guy out. It's Frank. You can't say no to Frank. Like, he's going to overpower. Like, it's Frank Ragnow. Like, he can overpower Dan Campbell, I'm sure. So, like, if Frank's like, I'm playing, Dan's not going to be like, no. So, I feel like
he might. He might be like, no, you're not playing.
Maybe, but I'm on the side of, hey, let him sit, let Graham go to center, and then you can figure out this. You can figure out this other guard spot. The left guard spot. You can figure that out. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe your guy steps up, Jeff. I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe we see a rookie out there.
No,
Maybe we see a rookie out there.
Not on Monday Night Football. No way. You had Yodi out there in the NFC Championship game. You throw him out there on Monday.
Yeah,
I would rather have Yodi. But imagine if they're like, Gio!
Hey, let him develop. Let him develop. See
Get
what
his reps in.
Let's
Let's get him some live reps.
Gino Manu might be the secret weapon. They might call him out. They might say, "Hey, Gino, do you think that the Seahawks will expect this?" They just see this 6'8", 350, no gut. Come out? Are you kidding me?
Right past one speed rush and they're by him.
They're like, you see, like whoever the defensive lineman is, just this dude. This is a grown ass man. This is a grown ass man here. I mean, no, don't play Giovanni Manu. I don't want to ruin his confidence. I don't. I really don't. Just let him.
Were you saying? By the way, I think you were saying. Were you saying Gino?
He did once.
Gio.
All right. It confused me that I saw people in the chat being like Big Gino, and I'm like, bro, who are we talking about right now?
Gio.
I thought we were talking about Geno Smith for a second.
Well, maybe the Gino.
I couldn't stop laughing. You said Gino like 3 times.
Well, I was like, calling him Giovanni, but he apparently likes to be called Gio. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
So Gio,
you had me dying over here. I was
even if I did, that's my fault. But yeah, no, save Gio, put Yodi out there. They'll be all right. All right, they'll be all right.
I think they're going to be just run the ball to the right side the whole time. Just pound the rock to the right side the whole time. Let Jared Goff play action, roll off to the right every single time with Panay over there, and inside. Just roll off to the other side. We'll figure out the left later. Let Frank Ragnow get his rest.
Hey, shout out Big Daddy Buttman, dude. He just said, you guys have the best intro by far. I just rewinded it to hear it because I was late. No. Hey, Big Daddy Buttman. What a fucking name, too. Wow. I mean, you're a legend. They appreciate you for that, by the way. I know the intro, Roman did a great job on that. It's amazing.
It's a great intro.
Here's a updated injury just kind of on some of the guys we already know about. Placed both Derek Barnes and Marcus Davenport on IR. So, tough. Signed wide receiver Tim Patrick to the active roster.
Finally.
So he's officially a part of the squad now. Allen Robinson, he's gonna have to stay in the minors. He'll get his opportunity when it comes. They signed Booner's guy, DB Maurice, aka Morris Norris, to the practice squad. Maurice Norris, but I like Morris Norris better. Sounds cool. But he's on the practice squad. Boone got another little DB in there.
He was. I'm not trying to be that guy, but how many training camps to practices we go to? I remember Jeff specifically standing there next to you during one of them and be like, "He's not going to make the team. He's out." So I'm not like, "Whoa, Maurice Norris is back." No offense to him. I mean, that was just when you're looking in the training camp, but you can tell who's in, who's out. I mean, he had some plays. But when it started getting down to it, it was the same thing with Maurice Fountain at the time, where it was like we were hyping Maurice Norris up. He was making all these plays, and then all these preseason games started happening, and Maurice Fountain started dwindling down, and then Maurice Norris starts missing plays, and we're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" The guys we were hyping up are.
That's when he went from Morris Norris to just Maurice Norris. He didn't his actual name. That's when the cool got a little deflated there. Do you guys? No, go on, Boone.
I would say just the Derek Barnes stuff. That's brutal. I know we kind of expected him. You get carted off the field. I don't know if it was a knee or what it was, but he's basically getting off the field. It did not look good. You were hoping it was how a Liam gets off, and you're like, all right, maybe it's something just a couple weeks, day to day, and then ends up being he's on IR. I do think I thought Derek Barnes is a big piece of this defense. This defense, the first 3 weeks have been very good, and he was your starting Sam. And he was good off the edge. He was good in coverage. When he had to fill in, obviously, with Anzo out, Derek Barnes stepped up. And I think he's one of the more trustworthy guys on this team because he's a vet, and he's been around, and he knows what it takes to win. So I do think, I think both of those IRs, obviously Davenport's probably the whole season, but even the Derek Barnes one, you're just oh, my gosh, it's brutal. And Dan did mention And actually, I said this on the pregame show. If there was anyone that's out in any position group, like I think the linebacking core is pretty deep. So I don't hate that it's that position. If it was a different position, maybe I'd be more concerned. But still, it's like Derek Barnes and then Ansel was out. Hopefully Ansel's going to be back, but it's tough because Derek Barnes was a big piece of the defense, I felt like, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that they're definitely going to have to change up what they do schematically wise with no Derek Barnes now. They'll probably run a lot more nickel. I know somebody dropped in the chat, but Derek Barnes allowed them to play more of the 4-3 look that they wanted to. Now they're probably going to have to do a lot more 5-man fronts. And then that's putting kind of like either Jack or Malcolm into an awkward position because they're going to have to move to that Sam spot. If I had to guess, just because of his athletic ability, it'd probably be Jack, and he has some familiarity with it from last season. But again, I'm not trying to say like Derek Barnes was not a huge piece. But I think what he brings to the table is different than what Malcolm Rodriguez does. But I have confidence when Malcolm Rodriguez is on the field.
Yeah.
So I think they won't be just fine. I don't want to make it seem like that, but it's something that I think this defense will be able to overcome over time.
I think it's just he's a big piece on the defense. Like some people might overlook Derek Barnes. The first 2 weeks he played 76 snaps in the first game, and then week 2 he played 59, and then he only played 12 because of the injury in the third week, and that's without Anzo. So like 76 and 59. And last year, you got to remember, he was starting over Jack Campbell. Like he was in that position, Jackson, and he was playing at a very, very high level. So like it is a big hit. Like I'm with you, Klotzy. I trust Malcolm Rodriguez because Malcolm's rookie year, he had all those reps, and like we've seen him more this year. I just like Derek. You're losing a starting caliber linebacker. That's a big deal. I think it's almost like obviously like you don't have the depth in the edge room, so the Davenport one's probably a little bigger because you don't have the depth. But like if you were looking at the production of both of them, like Derek Barnes puts the production up. Like he gets the snaps and he is a big piece of that defense. So like 2 guys on your defense, a top 10 defense, just out like that for long term is like it's brutal.
Yeah, and that's why I have more confidence now. Obviously, where the team's at with the amount of talent they have, it's the deepest roster they've had under Dan Campbell. And I think that Dan and the coaching staff's done a very good job of developing these guys. That even if you have guys go down, ideally you don't want these big time players to go down. I'm not saying like, if Panay goes down, just throw in Dan Skipper and they'll be all right. Like I'm not saying that, but for some positions, you can get away with it. And, at the end of the day, injuries are a part of this game. The Lions, I think it's a little different for Lions fans because last year they didn't suffer many. And this year you're having guys kind of drop left and right. And now it's like, Derek Barnes out, Aleem's out, Marcus Davenport's out. Like Brian Branch goes out with a concussion. So it's an adjustment period. This is the reality. That's why you need depth. That's why depth's important. And I think the Lions will be all right. They have enough to get them through a stretch. Now, guys that are out for the whole year, depending on what role they play, you might need to go get someone else to fill that role. But if it's Frank for a couple weeks, okay. I think it'll stink, but they can figure it out. Derek Barnes for a couple weeks, IR, so at least 4 games. And we will see after that. Hopefully it's not like the entire season. They can kind of figure it out. I think Derek Barnes, that loss, obviously you mentioned this, Klotz, yesterday, more significant than Marcus Davenport because of the role he has on this team. It's not just linebacker. It's playing that Sam spot, which, Aaron Glenn finally got it. You get an opportunity to play how AG wants. He has all this talent. And then like, boom, your most important or one of the more key positions on the field that last year you're kind of trying to figure out. Like Jack Campbell's playing Sam. This year they're testing James Houston at Sam, and they have Matty Betts playing Sam. They're just kind of trying stuff, and then Derek Barnes goes out. So like, it stinks. I mean, it does. But like you said, Malcolm Rodriguez is someone that I have full confidence in if he's on the field. Like they got a pretty deep linebacker room, so they just got to keep battling through it. And they still have some key players. Like they still have the best safety duo arguably in the league. They still have one of the best defensive players in the league this year, Aiden Hutchinson. Like they still have DJ Reader. They have Levi who's coming in there, and Levi I have confidence in. I don't know why it's crazy I'm saying this, Boone. You were early on Levi. Pretty confident in Levi. So they got Jack and Anzo. Like they have most of what they have. So it's not like hitting the panic button. But I think that Derek Barnes loss is probably the most significant.
I'm interested to see who fills in at Sam. Like, who's going to fill in that Sam linebacker?
What do you think? I mean, Jack.
But then what do you do? So like Malcolm then moves into his, and then like I don't know. Like, does Mitchell Agude? He was playing Sam in the preseason. James Houston tried it out, didn't work out. The next man up there was Mitchell Agude.
You know what? I take that back. Maybe you don't move Jack off Will. You let him just play Will.
Like, does Rodriguez go into the Sam? Like maybe Ryan put maybe Neiman. Maybe that's Neiman. I think actually was playing the Sam position when Barnes went down. I think I saw Neiman in there. So like I do think there's that sense of it's like, what do you do now? Like, are you able to kind of put someone in that role that still has that same production and plays at that level, or do you have to move guys around so you don't take a step back? Like, that's going to be like on AG a little bit, trying to figure that out, and obviously Dan too, so they can figure that out together. But like that's something I think to look into, because I'm with you guys. Like, I do think the Barnes losses, you could like the only argument I could have with Davenport is that the depth there is a little different compared to the linebacking room. But Barnes, like his role was way bigger in my opinion than Barnes or than Davenport's was. I also too, and I probably should have tweeted this out today. And I probably should have made a graphic or something about it. Dan did mention, and it was on 97.1 today, and I don't have the exact quote of what he said. It did sound like that they're looking for other people. Like he had, I think the words he used was, we're going to need to bring in reinforcements. I believe. Like, I want to make sure. I don't know if that was the exact way he said it, but I do remember hearing the word bringing in reinforcements. Now, I don't know if that's Dan being like, hey, we've got guys on the practice squad, man. We've got a lot of dudes on the practice squad, man. I don't know if it was that, but I think it's more so like, hey, Brad is out there trying to get reinforcements for this football team. So, like, I do think that they're looking and they're doing everything they can to get someone to come in and figure that thing out. Because I think you have to. You have no choice. Like, you have to go out and get someone.
Maybe you called up Isaac Ukwu. Maybe get Isaac Ukwu out there. No offense.
That's your last. That's not reinforcement. That's your last line of defense. That's not.
I mean, Isaac Ukwu had a better preseason than James Houston, and if James Houston is just inactive 2 out of the 3 weeks, maybe give someone up there who's going to be able to try and get active. I don't know.
Absolutely, but preseason is preseason.
I agree.
A lot of players. I think Isaac Ukwu, if you put him in situationally on like a third down or something, that's fine. But he's pretty much exactly what James Houston is. Like, he's not going to be a factor at all in the run game when you're going up against even normal, average starting NFL tackles. So you got to bring somebody in that's not a superstar, but somebody that can hold their own on the edge.
I hate that word.
Which one?
What?
Superstar.
Why do you hate
Sugar
it?
Sean O'Malley?
Sugar Sean. I was gonna say it probably reminds me of Lupe.
I hate it so much, dude. He was that close from getting on my do not bet list. So close.
You know what, guys? Like, speaking on that edge spot, I see everyone tagging me and Trey Hendrickson. I mean, you guys get tagged on that stuff,
or Max Crosby.
Yeah,
Max Crosby's insane.
And here's the thing. All right, and I should have been Judon. I mean, I tried, guys. I really did. I tried. I went. I was on the front. I remember Boone. It was my homework assignment. I told you I'd bring some names. Brought you Judon. You guys loved it. The chat loved it, and he's just over there in Atlanta. But you know what? How they can do this? They can salvage this. Davenport isn't Judon. All right, Davenport isn't even close to the player Aiden is. He's just a good depth piece. They just got to bring in depth. Call around the league, see if you can get look for teams that are this year kind of underachieving. Maybe they're looking to sell. Brad Holmes, pick up that phone. It's not like Brad can't make a trade. Does pretty well at making trades, and say, hey, I see this edge rusher you got. What do you want for him? Want me to give you a 4th if he's a good player? Or maybe I'll give you a 5th. Just bring in someone that can be depth. Maybe you call the Broncos. Sean Payton, Dan Campbell. Maybe you got I don't know if that's I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. Maybe you call the Broncos. Maybe you say, hey, Zach Allen. All right? Which, honestly, shout out to Matt, by the way, on Twitter. He hit me up. He's a listener. And he said the Lions should trade for Zach Allen. Random name. But I looked up Zach Allen. I was like, that's not a bad guy. I mean, Zach Allen, very fine player. That's all you need, Klotzy. Am I wrong? Just bring in someone. It's not going to be Judon, but just bring in someone that can match Davenport's level. And it's not a lot. All due respect to Davenport. You You just need a guy to fill. Would I love some of these premier edge rushers? Yeah, I would love it. I would love it. And I think that's Matt actually right there. If I could be mistaken.
There we go, Matt. Matt in. Let's go, baby.
Matt, you were cooking.
How about that, Matt?
I don't have these superstars on deck that I know teams will trade. All right. I'm not Adam Schefter. I'm not Shefty. All right. But go call. Maybe you can get some guys, Boone. Maybe some guys that can play a role for you. Just get some depth. It won't be expensive. Maybe guys that are on a contract here, potentially.
I don't even care if it's expensive. And you guys know me. The Booner path started during the trade deadline last year when they didn't go get Chase Young, and everyone said, "Oh, Booner, why?" Like freaking out, saying the season's over. Listen, this year's a Super Bowl year. The Detroit Lions are going to win a Super Bowl this year. I'm not saying the window's closing, but what I'm saying is, year after year after year, you're going to have a chance every single year going forward to win a Super Bowl. Go look what the Super Bowl teams have done when players go down. The 49ers example, they went and got Chase Young last year. They were able to say, hey, we're all in right now. Last year, Brad Holmes, and he said it himself. Brad Holmes said last year they weren't fully focused on a Super Bowl, but if it happened, it happened. This year, their main focus and sole focus is Super Bowl. And I'll tell you what, if you want to go out there and prove to the NFL, this is a serious defense, this is a serious football team, we're all in on a Super Bowl come February. Listen, and Big Word said, Brad don't focus high draft picks on he won't. Guess what, Brad, or Big Word? I'll tell you what Brad will do. Brad wants a Super Bowl. And Brad has changed his mindset since this offseason. And last offseason, he said, we're focused on winning the division and building. This offseason, guess what he's talked about? They've talked about Super Bowl. Super Bowl. This year, this is what they need to do, guys. And I think I'm almost all in. I'm convincing myself about this. The Cincinnati Bengals are 0-3. You just signed DJ Reader. He played for a couple years with Trey Hendrickson over there. Trey Hendrickson's on his final deal, or final season of his deal. He's requested a trade in the offseason because he wants a deal. Look at Matthew Judon. Matthew Judon, same situation, what happened with him. He wanted a deal. Patriots wouldn't do it. Requests a trade. Gets traded. Goes to Atlanta. Goes, all right, I'm going to try and go win a Super Bowl with Atlanta. I'm not going to worry about the deal until the end of the season. Why not make the call to Cincinnati? Just make the call. Just call their GM and just say, hey, you guys are 0-3 right now. The chances of you guys making the playoffs and making a run is slim to none. You've got out of the race in week 4. You're probably not going to re-sign Trey Hendrickson because you don't want to spend the money. They've let every other big player walk outside of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They've let literally everyone walk in Cincy, so they're not going to pay Trey Hendrickson. So you say, all right, we'll take him off your hands for whatever the pick is, just like the Judon pick. Similar age, maybe a little bit different, but hey, similar contract. We'll take him off your hands. You don't have to focus on re-signing. People are saying in the chat, well, we can't afford him. You don't have to focus on re-signing him because it's the same situation with Matthew Judon where he's just coming in to win a Super Bowl. You're not attached to him. He's not attached to you. It's a rental deal for a 1-year thing, and you put him on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, and you have the best defense in the NFL. You have the best rush duo in the entire NFL, the best defensive line with DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Trey Hendrickson, Aiden Hutchinson. You have the best safety duo with Brian Branch and Kirby behind you. You have one of the best linebacking rooms, and then you have two good corners who are still getting better and better. And then you go win a Super Bowl with it. Why not? And Easy said, "Look who wants to trade now." Easy. This is the difference. If you were here 5 minutes ago, I said this. Last year, Brad Holmes made it very clear that they weren't Super Bowl or bust. He made it very, very clear. He said, we're not all in on a Super Bowl this year. If it happens, it happens. That was what their mindset was this year. All off season long, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell kept saying Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. That's all they talked about. That they're finally in their window to go win a Super Bowl. That's their only goal this season, is to win a Super Bowl. That is exactly when a GM's mind switches, when you have a major injury and you're like, okay, we need to do something. If the Bengals lose next week again, guys, and they're 0-4, you press that button and you put pressure on that GM and you say, hey, before you trade Trey Hendrickson to anywhere, make sure he comes to Detroit first.
Oh well, here's devil's advocate.
That's fine.
I love it. Love it, Boone.
You have the cap space. What do you have, like 30-something million?
They have the cap space to eat it this year.
Plenty of cap space.
Let me play devil's advocate with you, okay? If I'm the Bengals, let's say I'm the Bengals GM, and he's thinking in his mind, okay, they're 0-3. We're 0-3. I have Joe Burrow. We have an offense. Defense, not so great. Trey Hendrickson, our best player. Do you think they're still in that mindset as long as we have Joe, Jamar, T. Higgins, we have a chance at making the playoffs and going on a run? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that he's like, we need Trey this year because we have our starters, even though they're 0-3. Like,
I think
like
I get that.
They're still a Super Bowl contender. You know what I'm saying? Even though
I do think you get to a certain point, though, to where you're like, you do get yourself too far out of it. Like if they lose again and they're sitting at 0-4, you get to a certain point to where you're like, we do have to look long term. Like, what are we doing here if we don't try and get assets for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who we know in the back of their head? And obviously, I don't know what their GM's thinking. Like, does their GM want to re-sign Trey Hendrickson? Maybe. But if he did, why wouldn't he have done it 3 months ago and just got done with this thing when the trade, when he requested a trade? So, like, in your mind, like in my mind, it's the same. I literally look at this situation just like the Matthew Judon one, where it's like he requested a trade. The only reason, like, Matthew Judon was like, I want to stay in New England. I know we're rebuilding, but I want to stay. And they're like, yeah, it's not going to work. And then it's like with Trey Hendrickson, like, why didn't they re-sign him this offseason? Because they're obviously questioning, do we want to bring in or keep a premier edge rusher, or can we go out and draft one or sign a different one? Like, they obviously aren't fully bought in on Trey Hendrickson. So it's like, hey, if you're sitting there at 0-4, like, who do they play this week? I'm interested to see. Let me see who they play. Because if you're sitting at 0-4,
they got the Panthers.
Okay, so they're probably going to go
Andy Dalton revenge game.
But then the next week, the next week they play the Ravens. So you could easily be sitting there at 1-4, and you're like, yeah, our season's probably trash. So how can we salvage this for the future? And like, I saw a video yesterday of Joe Burrow walking off the field, and instead of going to the locker room, he's with Zach Taylor going to the coach's room, and they're like probably going to see, like, what do we need? Like, can we salvage this at all? And there's probably a lot of questions going on in Cincy right now. And if Trey Hendrickson's available and they're sitting at 0-3, like, can someone in the chat right now, this is like a homework assignment, can someone in the next couple of minutes go and see if a team goes 0-3, the percentages of them making the playoffs?
I saw a segment. It's like a less than 2% chance.
So yeah, so you're sitting there and you're like, we're probably out this year. Like, as much as it sucks, we're probably out. You have your stars with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That's awesome. We did a bad job this offseason of putting a team together. Now let's punt it and let's figure this out. So, like, you're looking at it and you're like, realistically, what are we going to do? Are we going to get nothing for Trey Hendrickson and let him walk at the end of the year of a season that we didn't make the playoffs and let him walk for nothing? No, like, Trey Hendrickson's probably one of the biggest trade acquisitions and targets I think will be this year. He'll be like the Chase Young of this year. So that's where it's like, why not get ahead of it? You just lost a player. Go out and just, if you have to give up a little bit extra, I'm in. Like, I love Brad Holmes' draft picks. I've been the biggest advocate of letting him build through the draft. He still has draft picks. Brad's been one to bring in draft picks too.
And it's not even Trey. It's not even acquiring a player. I just think I think Trey Hendrickson would be like the prize player to go get. I just don't know if the Bengals will trade him because they know what they think. Okay, we have a healthy team, even though we're 0-3, and you're right. Even if they lose next week, they're looking at their offense. They have all their pieces. Their defense stinks, and Trey Hendrickson's their best player. So they'd have to think, if we trade Trey, like,
but again,
this defense it didn't get better. I mean,
but if you have that mindset, why didn't you re-sign him then if he's your best defensive player?
Because they want to go. Probably they thought in their head they're going to go in this year. This is like the all-in year, and obviously,
so that means they want him probably move on from him. And they're out on it.
And who knows? Maybe, to your point, maybe they think, you know what, guys, pack it up. Pack it up. This season, it's tough. We'll fight, but we got to trade Trey for something because we're not going to re-sign him. That could happen. Yeah. I think another realistic one, guys, I want your guys' thoughts, and shout out to Shift God in the chat, and I know Ryan mentioned it, Zadarius Smith for the Browns. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's not getting paid a bunch of money. The Browns, we'll see how that trends. Like Zadarius Smith wouldn't be that'd be a fine piece too, and I think with his age, he wouldn't be as expensive as Trey Hendrickson or some of these other guys.
I think maybe not production-wise as far as like what he's done over the last couple of seasons, but what Zadarius Smith does is exactly what Matthew Judon does. Matthew Judon was able to cover a little bit. Zadarius Smith does not, but he can get to the quarterback. He can stop the run, and like you guys said, he's a veteran. That's what this team needs. And it's not like a guy that I think will cost all that much. Zadarius Smith could probably cost a 4th or 5th round pick. And with the way that the Cleveland Browns are looking right now, the way that Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski, just this team as a whole, outside of Amari Cooper and that defense with Myles Garrett, they have nothing going for them. They're not going to win the division. They're probably not going to be making the playoffs because they don't have a quarterback to get them to the playoffs. Nick Chubb needed to be healthy for them week 1 to make the playoffs, and he's going to be out probably another couple of weeks. Cleveland's probably going to finish as a 6-7 win team. They just lost to the New York Giants at home. So I'm saying that this is going to be Kevin Stefanski's last hoorah as far as being a legit coach and being able to be taken seriously, not be put on the hot seat. If they trend this way continuously, I could see Kevin Stefanski getting fired by the end of the season because I know that he won Coach of the Year last year. But this roster that they have right now is the best Browns roster in the last 20 years, arguably. So they need to make some moves, and if they're not there, they need to find a way to sell the ship and try a way to get some assets and figure out this quarterback problem because Deshaun Watson is obviously not the answer. So Zadarius Smith, expiring contract, older player, they can afford to lose him and find somebody in the 2nd or 3rd round to replace him. And they probably already have somebody on that defense because with Jim Schwartz, he's going to make sure that that front 7 is very good. So I think Zadarius Smith, especially around the deadline, if the Browns continue this way, is definitely somebody that the Detroit Lions should, at least like Boone said with Trey Hendrickson, just at least make the call. Make the call because it makes too much sense for the Browns as well because you're sending them outside of the AFC.
I mean, this is the same front office that gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract. I mean, hey,
great job by them.
Smith, I'll give you a 5th, maybe a 4th, because he's under contract. So maybe it would be like a 4th.
Yeah, 4-piece.
Because he's not an expiring. You do have an out of Zadarius Smith's contract this offseason. There's an out.
Does he?
But it's 2 years. It's this season and next season. So I would be open to it. He's not old. I don't know his exact age. Let me check.
Probably like 32, if I had to guess. He's above 30 for sure, but he's been on some very good teams. Like when he was with the Ravens, he was very good. We all remember with the Packers, him 32. And Preston Smith.
Yeah, he's 32.
They were very good together. So he's a guy that, again, going into Lambeau, playing in divisional games, playing in the playoffs, Zadarius Smith has all that experience.
I do like, guys, the thing, the biggest too. Something with it too. It's like there are these bigger names like the Trey Hendrickson. Obviously, I can go off about wanting Trey Hendrickson. I think anyone would agree to that and be like, "Yep, let's do it." Like today, and the same thing with like Max Crosby, Hassan Reddick. Like I think people would. Like if I would take my pick out of those 3, I don't think the Max Crosby one is realistic. Like I don't know if the Raiders are going to move off, even if it's a punt year for them and like everything's going wrong there. I don't see the Raiders being like, "Yeah, let's trade Max Crosby." Like he's literally their franchise player. He's like their Joe Burrow, which is like, and I'm obviously not the same position, but that's like they built their whole franchise around Max Crosby and Devontae Adams the last couple of years. So like I don't see them just instantly being like, "Yep, all right." Like that just seems so unrealistic. The Hassan Reddick thing to me, I'm off on the Hassan Reddick thing. Like, obviously as a player, I'd be like, yeah, but like what he's done, like request a trade, goes to the Jets, request another trade now. Because they can't. I'm kind of out on that. Like I think that's more so like I want Dan Campbell guys, and like that whole situation with there isn't good. I don't think Max Crosby is even going to be available ever. I feel like that's just people online just being like, "Yeah, like this is the easiest thing to say." I do think like the Trey Hendrickson one, you could say it's the easiest thing to say. I do think that's like realistic because a month ago or 2 months ago he requested a trade. He has 1 year left on his deal, and he's willing to like, and they're 0-3, like. You know what I mean? That one feels a lot more realistic out of those 3. I've seen them all floating around Twitter. The only realistic one to me would be Trey Hendrickson. Now, the Zadarius Smith and some of these odd ones out, yeah, I would be in for it. I think there are a couple guys around the league who probably are on bad teams right now, and they're looking to get out and get on a contending team. So I would be in.
I did see to Malik B. Blue, he says DeMarcus Lawrence, if Cowboys not doing well. I don't know about trading. I don't know if the Cowboys would give the Lions DeMarcus Lawrence, but I did see a graphic. I don't know what outlet it was, but they did like the perfect offseason for every team, even though it's like week 3. But next offseason for the Lions, they had them signing DeMarcus Lawrence. That was like
I think he's on a fat contract too, like right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Jerry Jones probably paid that man. So it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be these. Max Crosby's not coming here. There's no way. They gave Christian Wilkins a bag to build around him, like, and then they're going to trade him. Like, it doesn't make.
They're in a
sense.
rebuild year too. Like the Raiders are a quarterback away. They're probably going to have
Yep.
a top 10 pick in the draft, top 15, and there's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are going to be available for them, and that's who they're going to build around, and you need a defense. Like, that would be like the Lions trading away Sue when they had him in his prime. Like, they didn't trade away Sue. They let him finish out his contract. They got every possible snap they could out of him, and the Raiders are in the same position with Crosby right now.
Yeah, no way they trade him. And to Trey Hendrickson, at least you made a good argument. I'm curious the way the Bengals, how desperate they get, or if they still believe with a healthy team they can make the playoffs, even 0-3. I don't know.
I mean, it feels like you're 0-3. I don't see. I mean, if the Bengals, I guess Joe Burrow is a quarterback to where you could believe could do that. Like if you
That's
had to
probably
pick
where
someone.
they're coming from.
But either way, like that, if you watch the Bengals, they're just it doesn't seem like that's a football.
Their defense is just they're missing DJ Reader, man. They're missing DJ Reader on the defense.
It feels like that team isn't going to be able to turn the thing around. Like, even if they do for a couple of weeks, it's like they're going to fall right back into the same slump that they are right now. So it's like, why not get something out of this guy? Why not? And if you're Brad Holmes, you've never been the highest bidder on anything. Like you passed up on Chase Young last year because you didn't feel like you were a Super Bowl team yet. But you offered and you went out there and you talked to Danielle Hunter last year about that. So like you've made calls last year. You just you weren't the highest bidder because you didn't feel you had a Super Bowl roster. Well, guess what? Like to the people who are like, Brad's not giving that up. Let's put the pieces together here. Brad last year was shopping for an edge rusher. He just didn't do it because he didn't have a Super Bowl roster. He felt like, guess what he has this year? It's Super Bowl or bust, and he said it himself. So it's like he's going to be a higher bidder. Like that's just how I feel like the NFL works. As you get better, you become a higher bidder because you want to make your team better and make sure you're good to go. Might see a new Brad Holmes we've never seen before.
I definitely think that this year you will see Brad be more aggressive at the trade deadline. That's why I've been saying it for months now that he will trade for an edge at the deadline. That was like my not that I had a crystal ball to see that Davenport was going to get hurt, but I just thought even with Davenport, just get another guy, and obviously him being hurt makes it even worse right now. But this Monday, I mean, the Monday Night Football, they play the Seahawks. I'll ask you guys, and I'm going to share something really quickly.
All right.
Seahawks game. How we feeling? All right, how we feeling with these injuries? How confidence level, worry level? I think for me, in the Seahawks, it's hard to look and judge their opponent. I mean, their opponents have been bad. They played the Patriots, they've played the Broncos, and they played the Panthers. So you're talking about Bo Nix, you're talking about Jacoby Brissett, and you're talking about
Skylar Thompson and somebody else.
Oh no, yeah.
They played the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Skylar Thompson.
Sorry, the Dolphins. And that Dolphins, Skylar Thompson. Yeah.
Yep.
So not even two. It was the backup who actually is terrible. Skylar Thompson, absolutely terrible. So they haven't faced any good quarterbacks. Here's the thing: Geno Smith, fine quarterback. He's and he always seems to play his best ball when he faces the Lions. All right, yeah. And they had Zach Charbonnet play last week, and he played very well. They have weapons. JSN, he had like a 10-plus catches one of these games. I forgot who it was against, but he played really well, over 100 yards. So they have weapons. Secondary is going to be tested. Now, the thing I look at, and you look at the Seahawks and Patriots game, and the Patriots were coming off a big win against the Bengals, and they played the Seahawks, and Geno had like over 300 yards. But the Patriots ran for almost 200 rushing yards. You had Antonio Gibson have 11 carries for 96 yards, and that's included a 45-yard run. Ramondre Stevenson had 81 yards on 21 carries, had a 20-yard run. They gashed the Seahawks in the run game, and they lost by a field goal. And I look at that matchup, and I think, okay, the Broncos, they didn't run the ball that well. Dolphins didn't run the ball that well, but I'm assuming if you're a defensive coordinator, if you're Matt McDonald, you're looking or Mike McDonald, excuse me, you're looking at this at who's playing quarterback, and you're like, we're just going to stack the box. We'll stop the run. You can't do that against the Lions. They have weapons. Jared Goff's Jared Goff, and I get the dude. And we'll see this week. Typically, the Seahawks games are shootouts, so you have to be aware of who they have on the outside. I think the Lions are going to have another good game running the football. I know they don't have Frank Ragnow, and I see Spencer says Byron Murphy being out will help not having Frank Ragnow, and Byron Murphy's very good. But I think this week, even without Frank Ragnow, guys, that run game, You're going to see the Jahmyr Gibbs show, the Dave Montgomery show. He's playing like a top 5 back at this point, Dave Montgomery. This week, it's going to be big time with the run game, I think. So I think that's a matchup that the Lions can definitely take advantage of the Seahawks, especially without Byron Murphy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it's an interesting thing with the Seahawks. To your point, Jeff, like they have had this is going to be their toughest matchup to date. They have not gone up against a team like the Lions, especially now having to go on the road into Ford Field. And don't forget, the last time the Lions were in Ford Field, they lost. Like they lost to the Bucs. So like the fans are going to be even more hostile. The Lions are going to be ready to have a bounce back win off a home loss 2 weeks ago. And honestly, I think this is going to be like one of the old Seahawks games that we've seen the last 2 years. It's a whole new regime there in Seattle. And I think that this team, it's probably not going to look as different. But like if I just look at like 2 years ago when you played them, guys, like Rashad Penny had 150 yards. They rushed for 235 yards on you 2 years ago. Like that one won't happen. And then last year it was really more so like their receivers. They had like 10 guys get catches and have all these yards and threw for 304, almost 400 yards on you. And I don't think that happens with AG this year. Like I think this game is going to come down to, all right, we see what happened the last 2 years, but guess what? This Detroit Lions defense got that much better. And then you add on offensively, I think there's like this sense of this offense is trying to get things together. And guys, I've said it a lot. The first 2 weeks, this offense was getting JMO involved a lot. They looked different than they did last week. Last week, they were let's run the ball, and they maybe tried to do a little too much in the second half. I think this week, I think they put everything together that all of those negatives that they saw the first 3 weeks of football on the offensive side of the ball, and Ben Johnson figures this thing out, and he puts it all together, and he ends up figuring out this offense, and this offense gets back to that top 5 offense. And I know the Seattle defense, how good they are. I just think this is just like once this offense gets clicking, it's too good of an offense even for a top 10 defense to stop. Like we've seen that with them in the last 2 seasons. So I just think this comes down to, all right, whose defense plays better? I think this Lions defense has improved a ton. They're not going to get, like, even if Kenneth Walker's back, like Kenneth Walker's not going to rush for 100 yards on the Lions. Look what the Lions have done to running backs the last 3 weeks.
Booner, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher against them, I think, since the Panthers.
So like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Sam Darnold, that was the last time, I believe.
Rashad Penny's not. And I do think, like, the safety duo that we have, if Brian Branch is healthy and back Monday, I just don't see Geno Smith doing anything he wants to in Ford Field on Monday night. I do not see it. And this might be a little biased. Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions play at a different level in primetime. And that might that's not me messing around. They've in the last 2 years, I think they might be 4 or 5-1 now in primetime. Like they show up and show out. And you're talking about primetime at Ford Field. I think this offense and Jared Goff and Amon-Ra, those guys are going to be clicking, and this defense is going to be on a different level. And I don't think they're going to hold them under 100 rushing yards total as a team. It's just more like, all right, who can stop DK Metcalf? That's what it comes down to. Yeah, can you stop their receivers? And I do think the Lions can do it. I hope AG has a plan for it, and he's able to scheme it up. But I'm confident in Monday, even if there's no Frank. Like I'm starting to, as the week goes on, I'm starting to feel a lot more confident about this game. I really am.
And I think an underlying factor that not even Seattle fans have had to face yet, and I think it's lingering in the back of their mind, is there's going to be a part, especially in this first season with Mike Macdonald, that they're going to miss Pete Carroll. I mean, Pete Carroll was an elite head coach. When you talk about going on the road against a good opponent in a big-time game, Pete Carroll's a coach that has done that numerous times. That's a guy that went up against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, has won a Super Bowl. He's kind of, I don't think he's to the tier of Harbaugh, but he's right in that conversation of like wherever Pete Carroll has went, whether it's college or pros, he's won and he's won consistently. Right. There's going to be games where Seattle has not been able to get punched in the mouth yet. They were down for a little bit against Denver in week 1, but after that, they have not been playing from behind at all. They went in overtime against the Patriots on the road, but now you're talking about, okay, this is the Detroit Lions, of Booner's point. On Monday Night Football, they're going to play better. So at some point, this Mike Macdonald team, maybe not the defense, but offensively, they're going to have to look themselves in the mirror and get into a rhythm. And the Detroit Lions are a team that you simply just cannot be able to do that against, especially when they're the Lions right now. I think they're playing with something to prove still. Seattle, I think they're very confident. They know, okay, we're 3-0. We've been in Detroit before. We beat this team 3 out of the last 3 years. There's nothing that we really can't expect. We know everything that they have to offer, and we know that their injuries are hurting them right now. Seattle, I mean, they don't have any major injuries up front. They do on the offensive line. I know, but we talked about Byron Murphy. Kenneth Walker, he could have played last week, and I think they were resting him to play this week. I think at some point the Pete Carroll factor not being there is going to emerge. I think you're going to see it on Monday night.
I think you talked about the new head coach, Mike Macdonald. I think the matchup is the Ben Johnson versus Mike Macdonald. Like the two young, innovative play callers, two on both sides. Mike, obviously more defensive-minded. Ben, heavy offensive-minded. That is, and I think that's this game with how the Seattle Seahawks defense is built and how the offense is built. I can see this game being it's not going to be a shootout. I think this will be like a 24-20 type of game, like a 23-20, 24-17. Like I think this will be a lower. Like, I don't know if the Lions, and if they do score 30, that would be amazing. I just think this defense of the Seahawks, it's going to be that type of battle. Like, this is where Booner, we talk about it, these tight games, turnover battle is going to matter. Like, the last time, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time the Lions played the Seahawks, Jared threw a pick six. Am I right on that? I think he did.
Brown.
Okay, so they did. So, like, that type of stuff is going to matter. Like the turnovers, winning the turnover battle, like this is where the details, penalties, being more disciplined, like that stuff's going to come into effect here. It's going to be that type of game where it's just grimy, gritty, running the football. You don't have Frank Ragnow, again, especially in pass pro, not having Frank Ragnow. How do you help that? You run the ball. You you establish play action, which they did a good job against the Cardinals in the first half. So, I think Lions, they're still the better team, even with the injuries, and they got to go show that. Guys, it's very simple. It's the up-down theory, all right? The up-down theory. Go back to it. Seahawks up, Lions trending up, Seahawks down. All right, this is how it goes. Just trust me. Trust me, bro.
Denver Broncos, trust me, bro.
Going up, they're going to go down. It's how the NFL works. There's no way the Seahawks.
To be fair,
tell the 2008 Lions that.
I was gonna say, to be fair, Jeff, like they've lost 2 big games the last 2 years versus them. There was no up and down. It was just down.
No, hold on.
There's
3 years.
3. Okay, so it's a down. It's no up, down. It's down.
Actually, that ties into my other point.
You have to come back up.
You can't beat a team 3 times. All right, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to beat a team.
They already have, Jeff.
4 times. It's going to be hard to beat a team 4 times.
Switched it quick.
And then if they win, it'll be hard to beat a team 5 times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
They're going to win. All right? You can't keep losing to the same team. It doesn't happen in the NFL. They'll get you back.
I do think, guys, like maybe I shouldn't be as confident as I am. I just trust this team so much. I don't know what it is, and I know I don't know if the fan base feels the same way, or if people in the chat, like, it is our job to break down, and we do. There's a lot of negatives on this football team. There's things that need to be fixed, especially compared to some other teams. But it's just like, guys, they're 2-1, and they've played some bad football
against good teams.
Yeah, so it's like this team, like, yeah, they're 3-0, and I'll give you something ahead. I have the Seahawks in my top 10. Like, I think that, like, if you're 3-0 in the NFL through a couple of weeks, you're a pretty damn good football team.
Absolutely,
like, you are a good coach. You have a good coaching staff. You have good players, like good position coach. You're good. If you start a season 3-0, I don't care who you play. But I just think like they're catching the Lions at a time to where they're going to start coming up and up. And Dan Campbell, before a bye, I would love to see his record before a bye over the last 2 years. Probably not great because before two years ago, the first half of the season wasn't great. And then obviously the first 2 years, yeah, okay, we'll take that back. But Dan's not going to go into a bye with a loss. And he's not, knowing that he has to have his team ready to go for Dallas like this side. AG has the defense just absolutely going. There's no way Ben Johnson, guys, I can't see a world where Ben Johnson has a struggles for a full game or at least a half a game offensively for a 4th straight week. Like, he's the best OC in the NFL. Are you guys? Does any of you guys actually believe he can go into this game and not have this offense back on track? I can't see it. We said last week it was going to happen, and guess what happened in the first half? They scored 20 points and they dominated in the first half. Like, he's going to, now he knows, all right, second half, what are we going to do? Now he knows. Like, there's no way. I think it's going to be like a 10-point game. I truly do.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to put that energy out there. I'm just simply reading a comment. Ed O'Neill says,
Yeah, Ed.
struggle last year against McDonald. That was the Ravens game.
but
Now the
they're-
Ravens team, not the Seahawks.
Geno Smith and Lamar Jackson, too.
But absolutely, no. You're absolutely
Completely
right.
different.
My mindset is like that's
Defensively.
why I brought up Ben versus Mike. It's going to be like that. Two young,
Oh, I guess
studs.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
young studs on that
I didn't think
on
of that.
each of their own side of the ball. So, I this game will be close. I'm going to keep saying that all the way to the watch party, the pregame show. It's going to be a close game. I don't think this game will get out of hand.
Offensively-
I'm looking at like a
offensively,
27-17. That's where my
Yeah.
mind is right now, early
Yeah.
on in the week.
I think it's going to be close to that because offensively, like I want to have confidence that this Lions offense can get back on track. But I think obviously the Seahawks are a very good team, and offensively you're probably going to be down Sam Laporta and Frank Ragnow. So I think this offense still can look good, but through 4 quarters, it makes me think, okay, if they couldn't get it going with in all 4 quarters against the Arizona Cardinals, and you have Frank Ragnow, he got hurt during the game, and you have Sam Laporta, got hurt during the game, but even the 2 games before that, what makes you think it's going to change now? And that's kind of playing devil's advocate, but that's where it's like, I think this offense will do well. I don't think they're going to struggle, but I don't think this is the week where we see the Lions offense click. I think they're still going to have some struggles, especially against a defensive coordinator like McDonald. I think it's going to be another game where if the Lions win this game, it's going to be because of the defense. Not saying the Lions offense are going to go out there and throw a stink bomb, but I don't think it's going to be like, I think at least looks wise on the optics, I think the Cardinals game will look better offensively than the Seahawks will.
I don't know, dude. I think
Obviously,
eventually this offense has to click.
Sam Laporta. I just don't think you can gloss over that and be like, they'll be all right. They'll be just fine. And I'm not saying you are, but if we want to see that Lions offense click, I don't think it's going to be without those 2 players.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Sam Laporta a little banged up too.
Sam's going to be fine.
I hope he can play. I think a sprained ankle, typically they'll wrap it up. He'll play. He won't be at 100%, but he'll still be fine. Even if you got him at 80%, they'll be all right. I mean, even if he's out there just running routes, this secondary is very good for the Seahawks. They got some guys now.
They do, but hey,
good
look guarding all these guys that we have.
Oh yeah, Lions offense will definitely pose a problem. I think the Lions, like in the middle of the field, this will be the game where the middle of the field opened up like Amon-Ra the most so far that they've played.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have Jordan Brooks. They don't have Bobby Wagner. Anymore.
No Quandre Diggs.
No Quandre Diggs. He's still a free agent. Quandre?
No, he's in Tennessee.
Quandre, yeah.
Interesting.
Not a free
agent.
agent.
I think this game will be close. Michael says I smell a Vaki TD coming on Monday.
Wow.
Vaki TD.
Interesting.
Can I interest you?
I'll be happy with that. We didn't see much of Vaki last week, so I wonder if they have something implemented for him this week. But hey, he's already with that fake punt, catching that. He's already every bit as far as a rookie as his 4th round pick.
See what he did.
Corey,
he played 1 snap last week.
Hey, maybe it's 2. Maybe it's for a TD, the second one. I don't know. Maybe he plays 2. One of them.
Oh wait, never mind. I'm wrong. He played 15 snaps on me.
All right. Well, you know what? He'll be all right.
He played 1 snap on offense. That's my bad.
Corey Patterson says Tyler Lockett is the one who seems to burn us the most. Tyler Lockett.
Especially last year.
Now they got JSN, who's very good. So they got going to be the secondary. And I think with Terrion, Carlton, I'm sure they'll put Carlton on DK, just because it's a better matchup.
Big body receiver.
Big body receiver, and then Terran Arnold will probably just guard. Who plays in the slot for them? JSN.
I'm not going to go with the Tyler Lockett thing. DK is the one that gives it. He led the team last year with 75 yards, 6 catches, and then the year before he led the team with like 140 yards. So DK has been your problem. Like now you have Carlton Davis who can step up and get that. Tyler Lockett's made plays. He's had 50 yards, 60 yards, but it's been DK the last 2 years offensively. If we're talking about like what receivers giving you problems, it's been DK. Like he had 140, I think, 2 years ago. And then I'm looking here, it's 75 last year. Like that's a problem. Like last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different guys had catches last year. Like you can't have that happen. Noah Fant. If we're talking about someone who really does, Noah Fant, 4 catches for 56 yards. Tyler Lockett last year did have 2 touchdowns. So like in the red zone, Tyler Lockett's a problem. But like if we're talking about like all games just cutting you up, DK the last 2 years has just he's been a problem, and now you do have Carlton, who is better. Like when we talked to Stephen Shea with the Bucks last year, he was like, the one thing that Carlton's really good at is defending big body receivers, and that's been like his go-to. So like this is okay. Now you have someone with that. Now it's about, hey, in the red zone, let's keep the ball out of Noah Fant and Tyler Lockett's hands. Like that's our goal.
If I told you guys a concern of mine, and I'd like to get your thoughts, Mike, a concern of mine, and it seems like this has been the case every time they face the Seahawks, is the pass rush. It just seemed like every time we have these Seahawks games, and I know it's been a while, but it's like last year and the year prior, it's like they just can't get to the quarterback. I don't know. I remember last year was like, can someone just get to Geno? And
both their starting tackles were out.
Yeah, they had two backup tackles, and Geno was just absolutely dissecting the secondary. That to me is like besides the offense, obviously running the football, I think that's a matchup they can exploit. But defensively, getting after Geno Smith. I know it's an every week thing because it's just like you want your defensive line to get home. I get that. But this week, specifically, given how it's looked when you face the Seahawks, can we get and I know no Aleem probably, no Davenport for sure. We'll see if they get Aleem. I don't care. Levi plays, James Houston, Josh Pascal. Can we get 4 team sacks, 5 team sacks? Can we get close to it? I don't even know if they had the last.
I have the stats last game. Are you ready?
Yes, tell me.
You had literally. I'm on PFF and ESPN here. You had 1 sack, which was the Anzo one at the end of the game. The one that Anzo just came out of nowhere. That's like an all-time highlight reel. And you had 1 quarterback hit, it's the same as a sack. So you essentially take away the sack. You had 0 quarterback hit.
That was like he was running around.
It was a good time. It was
not garbage.
End of the half, yeah.
Because they went to overtime, so it was a very well needed.
Geno's running around, keeping the ball, and then Anzo got him down.
Yeah, and we ended up, I think, getting the ball back after that. So I think it did help out, or forced OT, one of the two. But like, that was literally, you only had 1 quarterback hit all game. That was it. You didn't get to Geno. Like you had 18 pressures on PFF, it says, but I do think, like, I'm big on pressures. Like, you guys know I like pressures. But there's pressures when you also, hey, let's get some quarterback hits here. Let's
because
let's make some contact.
Pressure in Geno.
Yeah, like let's make some contact on Geno here. Let's get some things going. So I'm with you, Jeff. 4 or 5 sacks on Geno. Like, make it a problem. It is tough that Davenport's out, and Barnes too, because those are 2 edge rushers that were the guys that were getting after the quarterback. But hey, I don't know about you guys. I trust AG to be able to figure this thing out. To kind of step in and find someone to do that.
I mean, even losing those guys and Aleem, like, this defense is still in better hands than it was last year at any point during the season. Like, this is still the best defense AG has ever had to this point in the season. So Aaron Glenn, I think he's a guy that is able to match up well and at least find a way to have a defensive identity through the game where it's like, all right, like last season's like, you might be able to throw for 300 yards on us, but you are not running the ball. Like, that was the identity. And I think he always finds a way to make sure the defense has identity for that game. And I think it has to be obviously stop the run. But what you guys said, you have to get to Geno Smith, because if not, then all 3 of these wide receivers have a chance of going off. If you put pressure on them, okay, now maybe only 1 or 2 of them are. But even with this defensive improvement, especially in the secondary, it's not a guaranteed thing, especially the way that Kirby's playing right now.
I mean, you look at Geno Smith in 3 games, he's been sacked 8 times. Three times against the Miami Dolphins, 3 times against the New England Patriots, and twice against the Broncos. And the games, at least recently against the Dolphins, when he sacked 3 times, but he threw 2 picks. So in Geno this year, he has a 3-to-3 touchdown interception ratio. So like you might get another takeaway this week, and I would lean the Lions win the turnover battle here, given how Geno's played.
Love a good turnover battle.
That's one of the keys, man. And they've been getting to him. The offensive line for the Seahawks isn't great. It's okay. They have I like Charles Cross a lot. Very good player. I don't know who their other tackle is, but their offensive line is just all right.
It's very fine. It's a fine offensive line.
Yeah, not bad, not great.
Yeah.
It's just kind of.
Sorry, I wanted to throw up streams only. He said the Lions won't get 4 sacks, even though he's been sacked 3 times in two different games this year.
Yeah, 3.
I'm guessing the Lions have a better pass rush than some of those teams that they've played. Just wild guess.
I mean, the Broncos got them down twice. The Patriots 3, Dolphins 3. Dolphins got a defensive line.
And
but can't tell me the Lions. Hutch can get a sack and a half this week.
Tell me this isn't true again. Tell me this isn't true again. This is just a recurring thing. It's like, hey, we're playing Hutch this week. Get the right tackle out. Like, what are we doing?
It's
here?
like, wait, is this? I can check really quickly and just get a.
Is this true?
Let me see. So the injury report, George Fant, light practice.
He's on IR.
Yeah, and he's on IR. He didn't play last week.
Is he their starter?
Yeah, and they have Nwosu and Jerome Baker out. I mean, I know it's on the defensive side, but they're both questionable.
Who's their starting right tackle though?
So yeah, George Fant, I think he's on IR, and he might be their starting tackle.
Oh my
God. Forsyth and Charles Cross. So Stone Forsyth is their starting right tackle as of right now, and he was a 6th-round pick in 2021.
But who was their original one? Is it George Fant?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
He's
George
on IR.
Fant. Yep.
And then they have
Abraham
Lucas.
Who's out currently now. They signed Connor Williams. He was on the Dolphins, and then
used to play tackle.
And he's not bad. They have Lakeland Tomlinson. Hey, shout out. Old
That
Lakeland.
pick, that pick
that,
so mad.
What
the guard out of Duke. That's what you get.
What a time. But yeah, they might have the right tackle. They're gonna have a backup this week. It's an every week thing. Hey, Dallas, who's that right tackle? Better be out when the Lions face them. It's trending that way. Hutch might go out. Hey, Hutch at home, continue that defensive player of the year race
with the crowd behind him.
With the crowd, they're gonna need Hutch. I know Hutch was gassed against the Cardinals. They're gonna need him to play like damn near every snap again for sure.
He's gonna have a long season.
It's
gonna be a long season for him. He knows it. I felt like last year though, he was like the only edge rusher last year too. So like he did the last 2 years he's had that same scenario anyway. So it's nothing new for him. It's probably just more so like a relief. Like, hey, I have someone else over there. Just a little bit. Like he's probably still gonna play the amount of snaps with someone else if Davenport's healthy. It's just probably like, hey, this is a lot easier. It just makes it a little tougher on him without someone else.
I will add too, Geno Smith is 3rd in the NFL in passing yards. So, and I know they face trash teams, so that's another thing. Like the secondary, I think we'll talk more about it this week, but it's a big matchup there. Well, I'm curious. We'll get to our power rankings in a little bit here. We'll see where the Seahawks are, undefeated, and the Lions. I don't know how everyone's aged from last week. I know you checked out our list from last week, Boone. I don't know what. I didn't look.
I have them. I screenshot them.
Oh,
I haven't compared because I don't know your guys' list yet. So when you guys pull them up, I'm just interested because Klotz 2 weeks ago had the Colts, and then last week he had and then last week he had the Bengals, and then this week I'm interested to see who he has at 10. Maybe Klotz has the Bengals and the Colts now in his top 10. Who knows? Maybe we put them both in there. So I mean, Jeff, I don't know about with you. I mean, you're a wild card too, dude. Like you throw some weird things at
you're
a wild card too, dude.
You're a wild card too, dude.
Can we talk about?
I wanted to ask you. I just wanted to. We'll get to that in about 8 minutes. But I wanted to ask you because I see this more and more. The Jared Goff stuff. I know we were just talking about it. I like the chat. Like I see some people like Jared Goff better earn his money this week. He's getting paid a lot of money. What do you think?
How much are you paying out of pocket? Huh?
Shout out to Easy. Easy's sending us like footage from the all 22 from this last week's game, and we're all just like chat. We have a group chat, and Easy's talking about it, and and I do. That's why I do love Easy. I mean, he was dialed in watching all 22, so respect to him. I mean,
by the way, too, one of my favorite group chats of all time. Love our group chat.
Yeah, the legendary.
We'll have that till I'm like 8 years old.
He's talking about Goff and how the second half he didn't play well, quite frankly. And he looked at the film and broke down the stats and everything. But I've been seeing it a lot more now with Goff. Like he's catching some shade, Boone. I mean, he just got a huge contract. I don't think it's all on what. Once you get paid, you're looked at a little differently. That's just how it does
was
work.
Paid before.
You guys want? Can I just bring this up?
The Rams paid him.
Go ahead,
Got him out.
My brother might even be watching. Every day after a Lions game, my brother cannot stand Goff. He loves Stafford. Cannot
There's
stand
just
Goff.
haters.
I mean, he goes. What the? This is week 1. This is where the text week 1. What the fuck is Goff doing? So many effing balls in the dirt. Goff blows dick. We got a lucky win because of him. Week 2. I can't stand watching the 16 in Honolulu Blue. He doesn't deserve to be on the field. Get him off my team.
Oh my God.
Then today at 10:14 a.m., Jared Goff got Frank Ragnow hurt. He needs to go. He's trash. So there is a spectrum of Lions fan that are just like, no matter what this team is looking like, they do not want JG under center.
Listen,
Detroit Supremacy said, "Tell your brother to learn ball."
Listen, this is the thing. There's a difference between watching football and there's a difference between just hating someone. Guys like your brother, it sounds like, at times.
We think,
and I love him. I love him at times. Easy. Like there are people who have what's the word I'm looking for, guys?
A vendetta.
Not a vendetta. When something goes, a scapegoat. There are people who love to have a scapegoat. And it is very easy to use the quarterback of a starting team, especially if you already don't like him, as your scapegoat. Take a step back. And you know what? I'll give Easy a little credit here because we did end up having a good conversation about it today, and we were able to break some bread. So I'll take that back with Easy. But there are haters out there, people who just don't like Goff. The guy's a good football player. Like at the end of the day. Like I've seen Easy say that at times he's a top 10 quarterback. I've seen him, and then at times he's outside the top 10. He's a good quarterback. There's no reason to be like, Goff can't do this. Goff can't get him off the team. He's a bad quarterback. He can't play. He doesn't know. Like, no. Jared Goff literally just took your team to an NFC championship game. And yeah, he had a team around him. But if he's that bad, you probably wouldn't even win the division and make the playoffs. Like, that's a fact. So yeah, he's getting paid now, but like I said, he got paid, the second most, and now he's like the 6th or 7th most paid quarterback, and by the end of next offseason, he's going to be the 11th highest paid quarterback, and it's all going to fill right in to where you guys want because the market starts moving. Listen, why don't we all just stop being little, like, kids about this? All the people in the chat who want to go at Jared Goff, and let's grow up, and let's look at, hey, what did Jared Goff do in the first half? Played a hell of a good first half.
I think he had a damn.
He knows how to play. He knows how to play. He knows how to play football. That man went 14 for 14 in the first half, and for however many yards, and he looked perfect. Now in the second half, an Easy sent it to me. He was 5 for 10, 60-something yards and an interception. Yes, we can look at that and be like, all right, what do we need to do to get Jared Goff to play that first half more consistently? And there was a 14 out of 17 games last year, Jared Goff played that first half. Am I wrong, guys?
I mean, he had a good last year. He had a bad stretch, but
he had a three-game bad stretch. But 14 out of the 17 regular season games, Jared Goff did what he did in the first half on Sunday night.
That's perfect.
Now I'm saying at that level to where he was playing good football and winning.
He's playing good football. Yep.
Thank you. Yep. So at the end of the day, this guy can play football. The overreactions of being like, I'm going to do everything I can to take this guy to the ground. He gave you everything. He got you an NFC championship game. You have a division title because of Jared Goff. If you want Jared Goff gone, I'm stripping all of that away from you. I don't care if Doc says I can't say anything to you. Man up. That man is your quarterback. All right? Man up. He's going to go win you a Super Bowl. If you don't have Jared Goff, who are you going to go with this year? Are you going to go get Sam Darnold? I don't want Sam Darnold. Give me Jared Goff. I mean, come on. What are we doing here, guys? Like, it's not, guys, it's not rocket science. This is easy. We've seen Jared Goff play football.
It's easy,
Stop acting like we don't know football. Seriously, like, what are we doing?
Have you seen Hendon Hooker, Boone?
I respect a guy like, I don't care. Jared Goff won you you're good with Jared. Listen, I respect, and I'll say this. I'm angry, so I'm being real right now. I respect a guy like Easy who will send me highlight film of good plays and bad plays. And he'll say, I'm just trying to figure out what happened in the second half. I respect that. What I don't respect are the people who are like, Jared Goff can't win you games, and he's bad, and he'll never be good. That's when I know you just don't know what you're talking about. I respect Easy when he does that. But when Easy comes at me, like he did last year, sometimes being like, you'll never win a Super Bowl or you'll never win a division with him. You'll never go to the NFC Championship game. And then he does it, and then Easy's like, yeah, I have to take a step back. That was on me. I respect that. But the people who are like, Jared Goff will never win you, come on, dude. So disrespectful. It's so bad. The guy can play football. just because he had one bad throw. It's one interception. Dude, I saw someone tweet out, and you know what? He's a friend of ours. I want to get his @ real quick.
Oh, he's getting the @
No, I won't do it. But he was probably watching. He's a great guy. He does a hell of a job in the media. But he tweeted out, he was like, Jared Goff went 14 for 14, and then he throws an interception. He's like, I don't get why people would chant Jared Goff's name. I mean, maybe because he won an NFC North and he went to an NFC Championship game and he was the leader of it, and he just went 14 for 14 and put you up 20-3 or 20-7 or whatever it was. I mean, I'm more so on the easy side a little bit, to where it's like I can respect if we're trying to figure out where things went wrong when they do go wrong, because that's what you have to do to be able to bounce back. Like last year when Jared Goff went on that 3-game stretch of bad football, I'm sure him and Ben sat down for 3 weeks like, what are we doing wrong? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? Let's figure this out. That's respectable. Watch the film, get better. And then what did they do after that 3-game stretch, guys? They went and finished and won the NFC North and went to an NFC Championship game. It's unbelievable. All right, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. That was great.
Hey, that was a good therapy session for you.
I might pass out.
You had to get something off your chest.
I'll say this, Boone. I think Jared Goff, we know what he is. He is a good quarterback. He needs to be protected. He needs a run game, and that benefits any quarterback. Any quarterbacks. I don't want to make that just exclusive to Goff. Any quarterback would. I mean, if you have a run game and an offensive line and a run game, or in weapons, excuse me, that can benefit any quarterback. So I don't want to just single out. But Goff. He's not mobile. He's accurate. He's that's just kind of what he is. And people bring up the spiral and all this stuff. I think what frustrates people, and this is where I do agree with the frustration. And I get your point, but this is where I'm coming from with it. And it doesn't matter what position you play. It's just that Jared plays the most important position on the field. But when you get paid like a top guy, you're like Jared. The last 2 years was making $30 million.
It's so easy to make that through 3 games, though, Jeff.
No. But hold on. But the last 2 years, he's been making $30 million. It's like, okay, he's underpaid. He's playing really well this year. Now with the contract he just got, I think people look at it like, oh, you paid this guy almost $60 million and he needs a run game. He needs an offensive line. Like, you can't just put the team on his back. And I just think it's just not what you didn't pay him on that. You paid him because you had to. Like, that's what the market dictated. You had to pay him, and that's what they paid him. He's making as much as, what is he, a couple million shy of Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or these guys? He's not Josh Allen. He's not. He's just not. And
but these guys will pass him up by a lot next year and the year after.
Yes, and
he's going to average out.
You're correct.
What's the easy thing? If you're under 12, if you have a quarterback under 12%, only a couple quarterbacks over the 12% cap hold or cap hit have ever won a Super Bowl. It's like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Jared's underneath the 12%. Like, Easy was one in the summer that even said, like, he is under that pay right now this year. So it doesn't affect you. The pay doesn't matter. I get what you're saying, though. Like, people just, like, they think it. I just hate,
he's held to a different standard now with that money. It's the same thing. Remember when Stafford got paid? And he was the highest paid quarterback, and everyone went at Stafford about it. Like, this guy, this guy's the highest paid quarterback. Jared's not, but it's like, dude, you paid this guy $50-something million. That's what he's making. And the guy, he throws 50 times and loses, even though most quarterbacks that throw that many times, they don't really win besides Mahomes. So that's that's a whole nother conversation. But I do sympathize with. I do understand those people, though, to be fair. Like, if you're getting paid that money, if the Lions, like this week, if things aren't going your way, Jared Goff, you got to bring these boys home to victory. Like, you're getting paid like it. You know what I mean?
But like, even when he's been playing bad the last couple weeks, like, they're still winning games. And it's like, he's still going out there and putting a drive together if you need it. And I know at the second half last week he did, like, you did it, but he still has, like, going 14 for 14 and putting your team up like that. You could have easily played bad the whole game. And then if that would have happened, we could have a legit conversation. Or if this is happening through 10 weeks and you're sitting there and you're out of the NFC North contention and you're like, what's going on? Like, we just paid you. All right, then we can have a conversation. I just hate, and I hope you two are on my side with this and just understand where I'm coming from. I just hate when he throws one interception and I know the offense as a whole, guys, has not looked good for 3 weeks. It's not just Jared Goff. Like, Kevin Zeitler struggled. Taylor Decker struggled. Graham Glasgow I've seen give up sacks. Like, guys have struggled. Amon-Ra week 1 struggled. It's not like it's just a Jared Goff problem. This has been an offensive as a whole. Ben Johnson's been making bad play calls. I just hate he throws one interception and it's the instant scapegoat and for people to look and go, why is Jared Goff playing bad? Why is it Jared Goff? What's going on with Jared Goff? It's like, listen, like, take a step back, dude. He had bad games last year. He literally, like, for the last 2 seasons. That's why I thought when we went to the NFC Championship game, I thought the whole Jared Goff conversation was done. Like, he just did what he did for 2 seasons, played at an elite level, whether you pay him or not. As long as you keep winning, I don't care how many stats he puts up. If you're winning football games, Jared Goff is your guy because you know you can win with him, and you're going to keep winning. Like, why move off of something from your winning? I thought if he would have had a bad game or two, that people wouldn't have instantly been like, screw this guy, let's move on. I thought he finally won the fan base over with all the chants. That's why it's so defeating and a little, to me, embarrassing for some people and for some of the fan base that just instantly think, oh, Jared Goff sucks. He'll never do anything here. Like, it's so mind-boggling to me.
No, and I think there's
mind-boggling
with you because I think there's a fine line between saying, okay, Jared Goff's having a bad stretch of games, and then there's just absolutely going at Jared Goff as, like you said, the scapegoat. Because, and like Izzy just said, like Ben Johnson's been struggling. Ben Johnson is still struggling. Jared Goff's still struggling. Ironic. Once both those guys get it ironed out, they're going to go back to the status that they were beforehand. And I think that's only a matter of time. And I think most Lions fans, unless you've been sleeping under a rock for the past season and a half, 2 seasons and a half, this Lions offense is very good. And it's only a matter of time until they click again. If they've clicked the last 2 years prior to this, they're going to be fine just now. So it's just one of those things where you got to be patient with it. There always are going to be those fans that like I will admit, like even when Matthew Stafford was in Detroit, it did not matter which game it was. I was tired of watching Matthew Stafford. I didn't give him his credit. I've matured past those days, but there still are those fans that are like that. So, and those were never the fans that were chanting Jared Goff. Like even me, like I've never been a guy to be like Jared Goff. Like I have never once done that chant, and it's like I support Jared Goff, but I think there's just again the spectrum of Lions fans, and there's always going to be just the polarizing ones that. And Boone, if you think it's embarrassing, I think a lot of people do. Let them embarrass themselves. You know what I mean?
Which is fine. Like Trey here, Trey Emerson in the chat. He said, "Yeah, Boone, look away. Goff sealed the game for us on Sunday. He threw a dart to Saint for the first down and then ran for one. Like he had like." Even though he played so bad in the second half, when you're like, all right, we have to get this to win the game, steps up, makes the throw to St. Brown, and then runs for a first down, and game's over. Like, but people won't talk about that, but they'll talk about the 2 or 3 possessions before that. People, like the conversation, there was no conversation from people who don't like Jared Goff. They'll refuse to have the conversation about the first half. Refuse. No, they won't. They don't even want to acknowledge the 14 for 14. Won't even want to talk about it, but they'll talk about how he went 5 for 10 in the second half, and they'll ignore the last possession of him ending the game, and they'll ignore the first 2 quarters of him absolutely dominating, and they'll ignore the 14 games last year where he played really well, and the year before when they finished the season 8-2. Like they'll ignore all of that, and they'll just look at, oh my gosh, he just threw a pick. It's like an NFL quarterback has never thrown a pick before. Well, how did he do that?
If we think things are bad in Detroit right now with the Jared Goff contract, and this is not a shot, like Jeff, I think you'd even agree. But look down in Jacksonville right now, who just re-signed Trevor Lawrence. Like it is bad, and I'm not. That again could be with Doug Peterson as well. But Trevor Lawrence is a guy that like it almost looked like he just forgets how to play football at times. And at this point in his career, he should be entering his prime. So it's a lot better in Detroit right now than it could be in a lot of spots. Like Jared Goff is a top 10 to 12 quarterback, wherever you want to rank him. And with that, and a lot of times it's the same problem with those guys in the tier, why they're not consistently in that conversation. They're going to have weeks where they look like top 5 guys. But on the back end of that, they're going to have weeks where they look like bottom 25 guys or top 25 guys. So there's just, you got to, the highs and the lows, the up-down theory, Jeff.
I have breaking news. Big time breaking news.
Hold on. Can I want to, okay, go on.
Big time breaking news.
Like, it better be big.
It's huge.
Pause.
Jared Goff's going to throw an interception this year. Another one.
Oh, my
Jared
God.
Goff is going to throw another interception this year. I just want it for the people who don't like him. Guess what? Jared Goff is going to throw another interception this year. It will happen. It's going to happen. It's the NFL.
Boom. I don't think I can ever trust another news break from you again.
Yeah, that was awful.
I just had to get the people's attention just to let them know, hey, guess what? Jared Goff isn't bad. He's going to throw an interception.
Hold on. The reality, guys, and this is why back to the point of people, holding him to the standard of which the amount of money he gets paid, which I think is fair. If you're a big CEO of a company and you're making more than everyone else at the company, they're looking at you like produce results. You know what I mean? I get that. And I think franchises, you pay quarterbacks to fix problems. That's why you pay quarterbacks. You pay quarterbacks to fix problems. You don't pay quarterbacks to create problems or add on to problems. So I think for Jared, like when we talk about Frank Ragnow being out, it's like, oh, like, yeah, it stinks. But like at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you paid this guy 50-something million. Like, go get it done. It'll be all right. Like, you know what I mean? Figure it out. Go out there and I'm not saying you have to put the offense on your back, but like, come on, dude. That's where people are coming from. And that's why I do understand that.
Yeah,
you want
I think people
put out fires. Put out fires.
I think when you say that, like, all right, there is a difference, and this is where I'm very fair with you guys. There's a difference between like what you just said, Jeff, and having Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, like those type of like that level of guys, Joe Burrows, than there is with like a guy like a Jared Goff, who obviously doesn't have the skill set of dual threat and this and that, to where those are guys who will be game breakers. But you can also pay guys to win that like, hey, this is a guy that we can win with. It's not just you're paying guys that are going to fix problems. It's let's pay a guy that we know we're going to go win. We can win the Super Bowl with.
Yeah,
I think there's both can be true.
I just think the reality, and this is where I'm at with Goff. I think Goff is a guy that you can win a Super Bowl with. He just needs more help than like other guys. Like I don't think it's fair to look at guys like, yeah, you could probably say like, oh, Sam Darnold won't ever win a Super Bowl. Like you could just throw that out. But I think Jared, he's gotten multiple NFC championship games. Like you can get to a Super Bowl and compete with him, but he's just, he needs, like, it's like the Brock Purdy thing. Like I've always been like, I think Brock Purdy's a really good quarterback. And he played really well against the Rams, even without like all the guys that he had on offense. But like same with Brock, like Brock can get there and make it a game and hell, even potentially win one. He just needs that roster, And I think that's
I will always agree with that.
But then there's like Mahomes who can just do it. Like they're 11-6 and he just wins a Super Bowl. Like, you know what I mean? So
there are literally in the NFL history, there's a handful of those guys in NFL history, Jeff.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right about that. And Goff, if you're doing like a top 10 list, he's like right in the, he's right in the range with like that. Like I would put him, like if you put him top 10, he's probably like between 7 and 10, typically on a year-to-year basis. Maybe you put him outside of that, whatever. But he's close to it. So we'll see. I think this week, yeah, you expect Goff to, let's get the interception bug out of your system here. And you're playing a pretty good secondary. And I know Michael takes Goff, Dilfer. No, but they won with Dilfer. They won a Super Bowl with Flacco. It is a different NFL, offensively kind of favored, but Nick Foles beating Tom Brady, I would argue those are probably more exceptions, but yeah, I get it. Whatever. I mean, it happens. It does happen. And he's better than those guys. I mean, he is. And honestly, what helps, I think, is the NFC in terms of quarterback play isn't super deep.
It's not even close.
It's not close to the AFC at all. So at least you have the Super Bowl argument there as well. And I know someone brought up, I think it was, I can't remember. Someone brought up Dak Prescott. Like Dak got paid, and now they hold him to that another standard. It's like now you're making $60 million. It's like,
yeah, there's a difference though with Dak. It's like Dak can't win. Even if they put a team around him, he can't win in the playoffs. That's been the problem too.
And that's
Jared's already proven
that. Was the highest paid quarterback, and he just wanted to get paid more. Like entering last year, Dak was number one.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Wise.
All right. You guys want to get to our power rankings here?
Yeah, let's get through it.
All right.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I'll start it off just because mine I do have a thought.
You want to clarify something?
Yeah, I want to clarify something.
All right, let me.
Because I was, and I'll get through it, but I do have to take a team lower them.
Shocking.
Lower them down.
You had a last minute like a change of heart.
Yeah, just because because me and Booner talked about it. Like Boone, you're right. You're right. So I still think they're on the top 10, and I'll talk about how I'd arrange it following.
All right, Klotzy, break it down.
All right, so number 10, the Green Bay Packers, and I think people can be like groan about it because they're in the NFC North, but the fact is Malik Willis looks good. He doesn't look great, but he looks good. And Malik Willis, when you saw him in Tennessee, looked terrible. Looked like he couldn't even play in the NFL. So I think that in itself speaks volumes. But I just think when you look at this team defensively, they're playing very well. And I think as they continue to go on, it looks like Jordan Love's going to return this week. And I think that they're going to be back up higher in top 10 lists. But, I mean, I understand that Malik Willis has been their quarterback, but this is a top 10 team in the NFL to me. I think they can go and compete with anybody in there. And the Seattle Seahawks at 3-0, I understand they're 3-0 and they haven't beat that many great teams. That's where at 9 on my list. But offensively, they've been able to produce without Kenneth Walker. They've had a ground game. Geno Smith has looked pretty solid this year, not great. And defensively, they just look like an organic team. Tampa Bay, they're low on this list, but deservingly so. I don't think they're going to stay at 8. They're probably going to jump right back up into the top 6 or 5 next week. But when you look at them, you just can't lose to Bo Nix looking like that at home. Like that was a bad loss. So
tough.
They're better than the 8th team in the NFL, but I just think that just out of accountability, you can't let that happen. Philadelphia Eagles, they're pretty similar to what I had them last year, and this is where I start mix and matching. So the Eagles and the Niners right there, if I had the Niners, realistically, I should put them at 9. I'd put them at 9. I'd bump Seattle down 1. I'd probably have the Packers at 11. But the Eagles, I'll stick on them. I think they had a very tough place to go into New Orleans against a good defense, and they found a way to win. I think without A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith got hurt later in that game, and that game needed all 4 quarters. Saquon Barkley put the team on his back, and I think with Saquon, if he's playing like that with A.J. Brown, that's a very good team, but they need to figure out that defense. I just still think they're a team that does not have their chemistry built, and I think with Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, I would have expected them to look a little bit better. Jalen Hurts statistically looks okay, but he still looks out of rhythm. He's holding on to the ball way too long. So Philly's a team that I want to pit higher, but I just can't do it as of right now. Niners, again, I told you they should be lower, but I understand that's a bad loss. It's the NFL. That happens. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, they have a crazy rivalry that goes on. I think that Sean McVay had one of the best performances I've ever seen coaching-wise in a very long time. So the Niners are struggling right now. They got a lot of injuries, but they're still going to be a very good team. They're going to be high in the power rankings that they go on as well. Number 5, I know I'm covered it up, but the Houston Texans. That, and we can talk about the Vikings at the same time because they're at the 4 spot, but that was one of the most shocking football games I've seen all year because not even that the Texans lost, but the Texans could not get anything going offensively. They could hardly get over the 50-yard line. So that, again, I think the Texans are better than the 5th team in the NFL. But right now, after that, I don't think you can say that anything bad about the Minnesota Vikings. Even as Detroit Lions fans, they beat the Niners. They beat the Texans. Those were teams that were in the top 3, top 4 for most of us power rankings-wise. The thing is with the Vikings, I don't think they have the roster to, at least on the defensive side, continue to do this through 17 weeks. So that's why I have them at 4. I think they're a very good football team. I think they're going to be a wild card football team. But this will probably be the highest that I'm going to put them. Even if they continue to go, I just don't think they're better than a team like, hey, Booner, got to give you credit. Because I didn't ever think at any point during the season that they'd be this high. The Buffalo Bills. Buffalo, it's not even unfortunate because I don't hate the Bills. I like Josh Allen, but for narrative reasons, it is unfortunate. The Buffalo Bills, though, I mean, like last week, James Cook had 3 touchdowns. And then you see, like I said it before the season started, like Khalil Shakir has a real chance of getting 1,000 yards. And it looks like he's about to be that type of player. Dalton Kincaid got it going. Defensively, they keep having injuries. That keeps worrying me, but it just does not matter. The Buffalo Bills, Boone, you were spot on about them. They're probably going to win the AFC East as long as nothing happens to Josh Allen. He's carrying this team, but the playmakers around him are stepping up in big ways. They look like a very well-coached team. I think Sean McDermott's coaching his ass off. He heard all that noise, and he decided to do something about it. So the Buffalo Bills at 3, and the Detroit Lions at number 2. Because I think when you look at it, they've had one of the tougher schedules in the NFL. And if they don't go 1 for 7 in the red zone against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're 3-0. And I know you can say it's a homer pick, which maybe it might be. But I just think the Detroit Lions are the second best team in the NFL right now, especially when you look at right now, their defense is what is winning them games. Aaron Glenn has been the better coordinator between Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn between the two of them so far this season. That could change, and Ben Johnson goes right back to the status that he was. But this Detroit Lions defense is legit. This Detroit Lions run game is legit. And I don't think there's a team in the NFL that can stop this run game. And I think that every offense, no matter who it is going to struggle against this defense to get an actual rhythm going. So Detroit Lions number 2. And like I said to start the season, boys, until the Chiefs just absolutely blow up, unless they go on like a 2-3 game win streak, they're the number 1 team in the NFL. Regardless of what their wins are looking like, they're 3-0. They beat Atlanta in Atlanta on prime time. I think when you look at what Atlanta's doing, they're still going to be a good football team. So to kind of get them in that situation, I think that was a good win for the Chiefs because I don't think, again, their offense has not gotten going how they want it to, but they still just always find a way to win the game.
Well, let's put this up. So, you know what, and we'll break it all down. You know what, Klotzy, we'll address the 49ers thing because they didn't just lose to the Rams. You do understand that, right? They lost to the Vikings.
The Vikings, yes, but that's what
it's
I'm saying, like,
1 and 2 tough losses back to back. It's
tough, but I'm not gonna, like, the 49ers are a top 10 team in the NFL. Like, there's no
he's doing the Bengals thing again.
Yeah.
This is the San Francisco 49ers, Jeff.
I get that, but for the
I
next
know.
3 weeks or 2 weeks, it's like they're all out. Like I don't know, dude. It's like if they continue, I've said it a million times. There's the one weird thing about the 49ers, and it's been like this forever, the last 2 years, is if they have one star out, they drop the game. Like, I don't know. It's like they have to have every single
star out this game.
I know, but that's my point. Is like, even if Debo comes back and they're without CMC, they're probably like going to struggle a couple games. Like CMC probably
team in the NFL though.
CMC is on IR. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Like if when George, the second George Kittle comes back, that's a top 10 team in the NFL.
You have right now a 3-0 team off the list, and I am under the impression, in my opinion, after 2 weeks, you could be like, 2-0 teams maybe don't deserve to be on the list. Once you hit that 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 mark, you're like, hey, this is a team that could play some damn good football. And like, not to have the Steelers on this list and have a 1 and 2 49ers.
This is where if you look at the list that I sent Jeff originally when I forgot the Niners, the Steelers are at 10.
You should have. That's what you should have left it. Honestly, your list, because the thing is too, is like, just because you have the 49ers on there now, I'm looking at your list last week. Like, the Eagles won, and you dropped the Eagles down to 7, and you had them at 6.
I keep the Eagles at 6.
Okay, so that's my thing. You should have just kept the 49ers out and kept your original list, and I would have been like, perfect list. But like, fine, the 49ers don't deserve to be a top 10 team right now.
My thing is, if we're instead of Detroit Lions fans, we're San Francisco 49ers fans. We have the San Francisco 49ers on the list because you're like, George Kittle's out, Deebo Samuel's out. All these players are out, and their offense still looked good defensively. Yeah, that was a tough call down the stretch, but they were controlling that game, and then like I said, Sean McVay just found a way to win. I don't think that the 49ers are about to lose 3 straight games. I
don't think so either. I think it's just the Vikings loss right before that too. Like, that's what's
and I guess that's fair, but it's just, again, like, I had and I'll be consistent. Like, I had an 0-3 team. I could be wrong. Like, this is going to happen, but I think with the San Francisco 49ers, they're just in a bad stretch of football. The San Francisco 49ers are going to be playing in the playoffs. They're going to make a deep run. Like,
you can have them in your top 10 in week 17 then. That would be cool.
That's okay.
I think they'll be in the top 10.
You had the same argument with the Bengals last week.
That's fine, and I get it. I'm going to be wrong about things, but with the San Francisco 49ers, you can even agree that's a different team than having the Cincinnati Bengals as of right now.
I don't know. The way you were explaining the Bengals last week,
you're acting like you didn't have an 0-2 team on there as well. Like, you had the Ravens on there. You're like, I shouldn't have won it either way.
The Ravens did bounce back. The Ravens did bounce back, and
they did absolutely.
But we didn't know they would either of the teams.
I did. I said they would. That's why I said.
I'm going to be honest. I did think the Bengals were going to. They did not. I thought they were going to bounce back too. I thought they were going to beat the Commanders, and then Jane Daniels had the best.
I'm out. Maybe next week if the 49ers win, I'll consider putting them back in. But they play the Patriots, so I'll see who's back on the roster.
They'll get back in there.
I'll see. Like, if the Lions played them this week, the Lions are beating them because they don't have the players to play.
So, Booner, let's see your list, huh?
This is the only list that matters. This is the biggest list of them all. This is the best list of them all, as they say.
All right, Boone, talk to me.
All right, so this is what I did, and I want to pull up my last week's list just so I can kind of see, hey, this is what I moved.
The old reference. All right, let's do it.
So last week I had the Baltimore Ravens at 10, and I kept them at 10 this week. I do think like they beat the Cowboys. Whether you think the Cowboys are bad or not, I did believe last week that they were going to bounce back. I still like that, like losing the one loss that they had, or they have 2 losses, but the week 1 versus the Chiefs, they literally lose off of a hair of a foot down on the line, so in the end zone. So I do think this Ravens team is legit still. They just had to bounce back, and they did so versus the Dallas Cowboys, and they won that game. Number 9, I put in the Green Bay Packers, and you know what? I didn't have them on my list last week because obviously with no Jordan Love, them going 2-0 with Malik Willis, I'm with Klotzy on this one. Going 2-0 with Malik Willis shows what they can be, and as soon as Jordan Love returns, whether it's this week or the next week, this is probably going to be a top 6 football team. Like after this week, if Jordan Love comes back and they win this week, they're probably going to move up into my top 6 instantly. Like they're a really good football team. Matt LaFleur is a great coach. He's done a great job, especially with no Jordan Love. So I love that. Number 8, the 3-0 Seattle Seahawks, guys. Like, yeah, we might not think like maybe the 3-0 is versus some bad teams, but still, like I said before, 3-0 is 3-0 in the NFL, and they're sitting up there playing really good football. Like if the Saints would have won this week, I would have the Saints higher. But because I took the Saints out because they had a loss as well, and they're sitting at 2-1. I think the Seahawks is a good football team. Hey, things are looking good around them. The Lions are going to have a task this week. I think they get it done, but I have them at 8. Number 7, had to do it, Klotzy. Had to make sure the Pittsburgh Steelers were in there. A team last week, they beat the Los Angeles Chargers this week. A team, mind you not, let me check something. I want to check something real quick. Jeff Iafrate had the Los Angeles Chargers at 10 last week, and Klotz had them at 7. And the Pittsburgh Steelers beat your guys' top 10 team in the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Steelers need to be in the top 10. There's no reason the Steelers shouldn't be. They've won big games, and they're doing it with Justin Fields. Like that's crazy. They don't even have Russell Wilson yet. They're doing it with Justin Fields, a great defense, the run game. I like the Steelers team, guys. Mike Tomlin's an absolute dog. Number 6, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I had them at 7 last week. I moved them up 1 spot just because of the win. I still want to see more out of the Eagles. They're a top 10 team, though. Like they could do whatever they want, and they'll still be a top 10. I think they have a top 10 roster. It just depends if, like, does Nick Sirianni want to show up and play football or coaching football that day, or does he not? Like that's what it comes down to. Like, hey, did Nick Sirianni have his coffee this morning? If he had his coffee, they're probably going to win. If he didn't, they're probably going to lose. So that's what it is. Number 5, I have the Houston Texans dropped from 2 to 5 in my rankings because of the loss, obviously. And then at number 4, guys, I think this Vikings team feels legit to me. I don't know. It's only 3 weeks, but Sam Darnold's playing really well. They have a great offense, and that defense is like top 10 in the NFL right now. They're playing at an extremely high level. I like this Vikings team. I hate to say it. They might be like a legit playoff team. Like they have a good roster now. It looks like we didn't think they did, and then they're out there playing. It's like, hey, they actually have a good roster. Kevin O'Connell's actually doing something really good here. So I have them at 4. I don't think this is that should be at question. They should be in everyone's top 5. Number 3. This is shocking to people. You guys yesterday were like, I'm interested to see what Booner's going to have the Detroit Lions and the Bills. In the past, we all learn things in our life, guys. Everyone goes through failures. Everyone goes through hurdles and bumps and what is it? Valleys, hills and valleys, whatever those things are called. I went through one a couple weeks ago when I had the Detroit Lions at number 1 in the NFL.
Hey, you did.
We tried.
As the Lions fans, I got excited and put them at number 1. And then I took a step back and go, hey, are they playing Booner? Look at yourself in the mirror right now. Are they playing number 1 football in the NFL? Probably not.
Facts.
It takes a real fan to admit that. It takes someone who is honest with themselves, who not just is a fan of the Lions, but who wants the Detroit Lions to be the best football team in the NFL, to say, hey, we do have some weaknesses. Because if you just keep saying, oh, you're all good, you're good, guess what you're never going to do? You're never going to fix your weaknesses. Detroit Lions have some weaknesses. The second half wasn't that great. Let's call a spade a spade. Second half wasn't great. Jared Goff didn't play great. Ben Johnson didn't call a great second half. Defense was amazing. And that's why they're still sitting at number 3, is because they did struggle the last 3 weeks, and they're still up there with the top 10 defense. And if that offense comes around, they're still a top 3 team. So I'm put the Detroit Lions at 3. Number 2, I think everyone should. I think 1, 2, 3 should be everyone's right now in the NFL. Chiefs, Bills, Lions. And I think the Bills, guys, they've been dominant. Like we thought the Jags were a decent football team, and they went out there and wiped the floor with them, beat them by 40. The Bills look dominant. Guys, this is what I think with the Bills too. Jeff, I know you hate this whole Bills discussion, but there's a new air in Buffalo right now, and I'm not going to blame it all on Stephon Diggs, but Stephon Diggs definitely brought bad air into Buffalo the last year or so, and Josh Allen said it after yesterday's game. There is not one player on this football team anymore, and I think it was maybe add a couple different guys, but he said, hey, this is about the team. That's what this is about. And Josh Allen is finally like, hey, They're playing good team football. That defense, as much as everyone told me the defense was going to be terrible, the defense looks good. They have young guys up and coming. They have good weapons. As much as everyone told me they were going to have no weapons, they have the weapons. And Josh Allen's playing MVP football right now. Should be the leader in the MVP award. So they're number 2. They deserve number 2. Everyone could take a step back from coming at me all summer long. Not a victory lap, just saying I took a lot of heat this summer. That's just a fact. I took like a lot of heat. I took a ton of heat. And I'll take it. But trust me, if you guys are going to throw the heat at me as much as you did with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, I'm going to let you know about it. You all were wrong. You all were wrong. Every single one of you was wrong. And then I have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 1.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much to push back.
I almost wanted to take the Chiefs. The Chiefs is a weird one, guys. I don't know how you guys feel. They keep almost losing games. I don't know what it is. Like the roster's number 1 in the NFL right there. I think it's like Chiefs Lions. They just keep almost dropping games and somehow winning. It's really weird.
Well, I mean, and you know what? I think we're going to have similar teams, maybe a couple things different. I noticed you guys don't have a team that I have.
I forgot to say about the Bills. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, my God.
I say that. I was just saying it all summer. Ryan reminded me. I've been saying it all summer.
Circles the wagon. Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's their thing, I guess.
Jesus. All right. Let's just get this off the screen. Because you know what? Boone, you're absolutely correct.
Hey.
Bills are a very good team. And here's my top 10. Okay. Here's where I'm coming from with it.
Falcons.
All right. And I'm going to tell you something. All right. Let me talk to the people for a second. So I did my top 10 list. I'm sitting there. I'm looking at some of these teams. And I got to put the Atlanta Falcons, whether you like it or not. And I'll tell you why. They beat a top 10 team in the Philadelphia Eagles, a top 5 team to me. The Falcons played the Chiefs close, who are the number 1 team to me. We've talked about 0-2 teams being in the top 10. I think the Falcons are starting to figure it out. They lost to the Chiefs. I'm not going to blame them too much for it. I think the Falcons are trending upward based on how they've played the last 2 weeks, and I still like them. I still think they're a threat in the NFC. I do. I know it's only week 3 going on 4, but I think as the season goes on, they're a team that you're going to want to watch out for. The Packers, not going to speak too much here. Packers are good. They're figuring it out now with Malik Willis, and they're going to get Jordan Love back very soon. They're staying alive. Matt LaFleur, I've gained a lot of respect for him. Very good coach. And the Packers are a top 10 team, no doubt. Pittsburgh Steelers, yeah. You know what, Mike Tomlin, another great coach. Justin Fields, looks like he can kind of play. I'm not going to lie. And they have a great defense as always. They're a top 10 team, undoubtedly. They're 3-0. Seattle Seahawks, I think they're better. They're a spot higher than the Pittsburgh Steelers based on how they're playing right now as well. I know they haven't faced the toughest opponents, but based on the team, what they have constructed, I like their roster. And I think Geno's a better quarterback than Justin Fields, given what he's done in the NFL versus Justin Fields. So I'm going to give him that nod there. I'm going to give the Seahawks one more spot higher. Houston Texans at 6. I have the Eagles over the Texans for a simple reason. The Eagles, they lost to the Falcons on a very, very odd, Darnell Mooney, Drake London touchdown drive. And Saquon Barkley dropped a huge catch. So that could have sealed the game right away anyway. So I think the Eagles they do deserve to be a top 5 team. Although they've had their struggles, they're a drop away from being 3-0, essentially. So I have them over the Texans. That Texans loss, it was ugly to the Vikings. And the Vikings are a good team, but you got to knock them down a spot. So I have the Eagles at 5, Houston Texans at 6. I have the Vikings top 4 like you guys. Honestly, you can make an argument that the Vikings could be a spot higher and the Lions could be at 4. I'm not going to do that because of what Klotz and what you said, Boone. The red zone struggles. They got to the red zone 7 times. They didn't convert. Maybe that's your argument. Well, the Vikings have looked good all year. Fair. I don't even hate, if you want to argue, bump them up a spot. I just think the Lions right now, still the favorite to win the division, still the better team. And I think as of right now, even though the second half did not look good, that first half was excellent. And I think the roster as a whole is better. I don't know if I believe the Vikings can keep this up throughout the entire season. So, and I get it, but it's my list. I think the Lions are a better team than the Vikings. I get they played well. Buffalo Bills at 2. Not much to add here. it's the Buffalo Bills. They're playing well. Defensively, they look great. Josh Allen's MVP candidate. And the Kansas City Chiefs, you'll probably see another AFC championship game between these two teams, potentially. Chiefs are one until proven otherwise. So that's my list. I see Easy speaking more. He says, Falcons top 10. You got to speak on that more. Well, guys, and I get it. If you want to bump them, there's other teams that I considered at 10 as well. I think the Falcons are a top 10 team. They've played a tough schedule so far. I mean, they faced the Steelers, they faced the Eagles, and they faced the Chiefs. So that's their 3 games with a new quarterback, new offense, and they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and they played the Chiefs close. Like, I think the Falcons are trending upwards, all right? And that's where I'm at with it. They've played close games, but I like the Falcons. I think they have a good defense. Kirk Cousins hasn't quite looked the same, but I think he's still okay. And they have Bijan, they have the weapons. Darnell Mooney looks really good. You know, Kyle Pitts, guys, hasn't been Kyle Pitts, all right? Or maybe he has been, depending on what you think of Kyle Pitts. Maybe he has been. I don't know. But the Buccaneers, I see the Jets. The Jets I contemplated putting in the list. That's probably, if you want to do an honorable mention, I'd probably say the Jets. They were the team that I struggled the most with not putting on my list. I'm not going to lie to you because of how I felt about
the Jets
for the year. Yeah, and I get they faced the Patriots and they faced the Titans, but I think the Jets are another team that it's starting to click now. So Jets are an honorable mention, but I gave the Falcons a nod because I do believe it. NFC, they're a threat. I do believe that.
I would say this.
They're going to be a playoff team, and they're going to challenge the Bucs for that division. You'll see.
With your 10, I would say I do, like, and this is just me, just how I feel. I would rather, obviously, I had the Ravens, the 1 and 2 Ravens at 10. I would rather have the Ravens. I probably would rather put the Jets there, sitting at 2 and 1. And I probably, if I was looking at another 1 and 2 team, I probably would roll on Klotzy's side and have the 49ers over the Falcons. Because the Falcons, I know, Jeff, like, they might have a good football team, but like that game they won versus the Eagles, that wasn't really, in my opinion, and you could be like, oh, well, Booner, this, that, like, that wasn't really them. That was Kellen Moore calling a pass play and Saquon dropping it instead of and stopping the clock. Like, if you run the ball, the time goes down even more. And like that was just a bad play on the Eagles side. That had nothing to do with the Falcons, and the Falcons got lucky enough to even get the ball back.
But you got to, if you're going to say that, you have to give credit for that last drive.
The last drive, I will, but like they did nothing to be able to even get that last drive. Like, if Kellen Moore just goes, let's just run it with Saquon, that clock goes down to like 10 seconds, and the game's essentially over, and they probably get the first down. Like, that was literally they were literally a bad play call and a lucky play call away from Kellen Moore from being 0-3. And like, then you're sitting there and you're going, are the Falcons even real? And they have a less than a 1% chance of making the playoffs. That's where I go with the Falcons. That's the only thing. Like, I get it, but like, I get what you're saying. Like, they should be, but like that, you can't let that last drive overcompensate what they've been for 3 straight games. Which 3 games as a whole, they haven't been that great.
I completely disagree. I don't think you can take away that drive, because you could do this with the Lions. I mean, the Rams game, they had a ton of injuries.
But the Lions are 2-1.
Overtime. Shouldn't that hurt the Lions then? Like, I don't really look. If you win games, I think you got to give credit. You say it the best, Boone. You win in the NFL. It's hard to win. So like, you could probably nitpick and be like, well, this team and this. I just look at it as, you know what? They beat a top 5 team to me, and they stole that game, which it's great. They could have folded when they got the ball back. And the Chiefs, who the number 1 team, they played them close. They played a good game against the Chiefs. So that's where I'm at with the Falcons. In week 1, they played the Steelers. So you're talking about 3 top 10 teams they've faced, and they've played them all. And the Steelers game was, it is what it is. But the last 2 weeks, they played 2 top 5 teams to us, or to me at least. I have the Falcons or the Eagles at 5. And they played them close, both games, 1-1. Like, how do we value strength of schedule? How do we value that?
I guess, I don't know. I'm with you on that. I just don't think the Falcons, like, I give them credit for that. Maybe I would have them at like 13 or 14, or maybe like around there. But just like a top 10 team, that I get what you're saying. Like, you can't take away what they did. It's just like that game, watching that game, it was literally like Kellen Moore makes one bad play call, and that
It wasn't even a bad. Like I thought it was a good play. Saquon just dropped the fucking.
He
ball.
dropped the ball, but like if you run the ball, they don't have a timeout. Like even him dropping it, like if you just run the ball, the time goes down to like 30 seconds, and like you're giving them the ball back, they have to score a touchdown with 30 seconds instead of a minute 50. Like that's completely different. Like I'm with you, Klotz. Yeah, like if you just don't drop the ball, you win the game. So 0-3.
The one that I was wondering about that you don't have the like. Before even like the Buccaneers should be on the top 10 in my opinion. Like I understand that a bad loss, but the Buccaneers are a damn good football team, like offensively and defensively. Like I still like the Falcons. I'd probably have them just off of it, but I think you got to have the Buccaneers on that list still.
That's fair. I think the loss to the Broncos stings, and that's where maybe it's like, and again, this is where it gets with these power rankings. It's like, are you making your list based off what's happened the last 3 weeks? Or are you trying to look at it big picture? Like the Bucs big picture, they'll be fine. They're going to be fine. But like based on that loss, it's like, oof, you lose to Bo Nix. Like, no, in that roster, it's like, damn. But I get it. I don't hate it. Bucs are a good team. I'm not going to say they're not. I think they're just off the list.
That's I had them at like 11. I had them on the top 10 last week, but the loss just took them down a little bit.
Yeah,
I think other teams winning.
They're a top 10 team. I'm not really going to argue too much with them. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna pick my battles there. We got about 5 minutes left, so yeah, drop some questions. There's one earlier. Derek asked, Mailbag, do you want the Packers or the Vikings to win this week? Neither. Luke, how about we tie the game?
Okay, you had me confused for a second.
No, I would say the game. Fuck them.
I don't know. Maybe the Packers. Because I think they're both legit teams.
Vikings.
Because I think when when the Lions play both the Packers and the Vikings, their starting quarterbacks are going to be healthy. And I think when Jordan Love's healthy for the Packers, they are a better team than even how the Vikings are looking right now. So I think the Lions will have more of a handful with Jordan Love starting with Green Bay. So if Green Bay is able to lose a game in the division, I think that helps the Lions out more.
Yeah, because if the Packers win, it'll be 3 teams tied. If the Lions win, 3-1. So you want the Vikings to win, bump the Packers to 2-2. You win 1. I promise you, the Vikings, they're going to run out of steam. They're going to run out of steam at some point. Kind of get back down to earth. So I would say Vikings, or just tie.
I don't. That's a tough decision.
Right.
Michael, what, Boone?
I'm just starting to feel like the Vikings are a legit football team. And maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like they are. And I just like any loss, like I don't want them to be undefeated to where if we're able to just have one loss. Maybe it's just like I don't know.
I think the Vikings like this year is like this is when the Vikings are best when they have that Case Keenum at quarterback. When they go all in at a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, they have injuries and the injuries and weaknesses to go with the roster. But right now they have depth. They're very solid everywhere, and I think they have good coaching. So this will be a year where it's like the Case Keenum, like they'll be like a 10-11 win football team probably. But I think there will be games where they're just exposed.
And Derek Lash put it in there. He said, but the Vikings need to lose to humble the fan base. Yeah, when I did my Kool-Aid video this week, if you go look at the comments, 20% of the comments are just Vikings fans. Just like
really?
We're better. Dude, it's insane. Like we haven't really been good in a while. Obviously, like last year, like since the Vikings have been like decent. And like they're 3-0, and like Vikings fans are brutal. They're the worst. I think the Vikings fans are the worst in the NFL. Like go look at the comment section in the Kool-Aid video. It's
Which
just
one?
Vikings
Instagram?
fans. Yeah, it's just like Vikings fans just being like, "Oh, you guys are never good. Oh, Lions fans don't know how to handle when they're good." I'm like, dude, we were good last year. Like, where were you? Like, you were bad. Like, we were good last year. I don't know what else. Just like you're like, we don't know how to. We literally were just good. And it's just full of just Vikings fans being like, "Oh, you guys aren't even the best team. Like, we're way better than you guys." You like just going at it. I'm like, dude, I want them to lose and get humbled on Sunday.
That's fair.
I don't care about that. Yeah, you know what? My pick: Packers by 1 million on Sunday.
Boone's locked in.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Michael says, Mailbag, are you shitting your pants about Mike's defense coming to town? I'm not shitting my pants. A little aggressive, Michael. I would say I'm.
I've done that before. Back
a little
in the day.
I'm
as a kid.
16-year-old kid, Boone?
No, younger than that, dude. What? Everyone has growing up at one point.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you're shitting your pants again. I don't know.
No.
Mike McDonald's got Boone got feeling type of way.
No. Come on.
No, I would say I'm.
Streams only
Yeah.
said Booner. What? I'm talking about as a child, like a little kid. I'm
Bro,
not talking about like recently.
You just inserted that fact, and it just like I didn't even
No reason.
I didn't even ask for it either. Bottom line, mailbag. Which performance was more impressive, Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels?
Both.
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
Both.
I would say Jaden Daniels.
Josh Allen, we know Josh does this, boys. I mean, it's just Jaden Daniels, he balled out.
That last throw to Terry was fucking.
Great throw. Hey, best quarterback in the draft class.
It was an anticipation throw, like cover zero. He's just like cover zero, linebacker right here. He saw that he's no safeties. He's just fucking. He's down there somewhere, and it was just that dot. I couldn't even deny.
Hey,
it was a dot.
appreciate you guys coming around. Appreciate you guys coming around on Jaden Daniels.
No, I've always thought he'd be good. I still think Caleb will be better long term. I still believe that.
That's an easy way out.
No, I never said he would be bad. I never said that. I think Caleb will be better.
Boone, we both said Jaden would be good. All three.
Yeah, victory lapping through 3 games is kind of wild. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I might have to go get some clips.
Boone, none of us ever said that Jaden Daniels was going to be ass.
Jaden Daniels is going to be the best quarterback in this draft class. That's going to happen.
And that's where we disagree. I think Caleb will be long term. 3 games, you can win the 3 games battle. I'll give you that one.
Did you watch him play?
Who? Jaden Daniels?
Jaden, Caleb Williams has a better weapons around him.
Dude, yes, absolutely. Worse O-line, no run game. Worse head coach. So you can take that and run with it, right? And we talk about it all the time.
Jaden Daniels figures it out. No excuses. It sounds like a lot of excuses over there with the Chicago Bears diva.
It's literally the facts. I mean, if you watch, I watch, and I'll peep in these Chicago Bears games. I'm not. It doesn't help the narrative of it. I'm not a Bears fan, and you see it, dude. Like they have no fucking offensive identity. It's like, all right, Caleb, throw 40 times. It's like, why? What? It's not weird. It's terrible. But yeah, Jaden Daniels, very good, very good. I thought Marvin Harrison won Offensive Rookie of the Year though, so that's he's gonna need to ball out here.
I won't even be close.
He's gonna need to ball out if he needs. We're gonna get that. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you guys, man. Tomorrow, Wednesday, John McAroon.
The return.
The doc will be back tomorrow. You're gonna want to be there at 8:45. I
will say this. I will not be talking. I will just have questions and I will sit back.
Yeah. You shut up, Boone. No, you stand
will
up.
Not make any comments.
Streams only. I'm sorry. Did I ignore your mailbag?
Let's get streams only mailbag. What's his
hold
mailbag?
on, my bad.
Redrop it.
Mailbag.
Only.
Jeff's slowly coming to the realization that Caleb's Daniels is Caleb. No, we just argued about that. No, streams only. I love you. No, long term, I think Caleb will still be better. Give it guys. We forget that I think Stroud ruined us. I think that people think everyone needs to be Stroud his rookie year. I think that's a real thing. They have to be Stroud. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Jaden Daniels is damn good though. All right, and so are you guys. Appreciate your support for tuning in, big time. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Be there with the doc. Till then, see ya.